This is S-4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to S4, where we talk about the real issues involving paranormal and current events, coming to you live here from the S4 headquarters in the heart of the Cascade Mountains of Washington State. We also cover topics such as disaster and terrorist response and preparation, and veterans issues as appropriate. So tonight we have with us Jeremy Ray, MUFON STARS team member. What is the MUFON STARS team member? Well, tonight we're going to find out. He's been on the MUFON STARS team since 2008. He's former 82nd Airborne, and was involved with the Bigelow Industries, with the Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, which we'll find out more about tonight. So I want to give a real quick shout out. So if we seem kind of scatterbrained tonight, it is because we do have a 10-year-old named Sage that has been missing since Tuesday night here in our community. So we've been working on resource, just information sharing and whatnot since Wednesday. So yeah, it's been kind of chaotic between getting ready for the show and doing that. I want to give a shout out to the Skagit County SAR and the sheriffs. They're doing, I know, the damnedest they can finding this kid. So anyway, we have with us Barry Gaunt from Kentucky MUFON and Into the Fire. We have Markham, our S4 scientist, and Jeremy Ray. How are we all doing tonight?
Perfect.
Fantastic. How's everybody over there?
Oh,
Excellente.
Ready.
mentally drained.
Oh, but ready.
And ready.
There we go.
Yes, we're ready.
T-minus friggin' 14 hours. 14 hours and we are on the road.
We are on the road to Packwood, Washington, right at the base of Mount Rainier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sounds like an awesome trip.
We're going to do some Bigfoot while we're up there a little bit.
Awesome. Had a good Bigfoot report last night. Somebody was talking about how they were having a lot of knocking right outside their house, like he was trying to shake a tree down.
We're at.
It was actually in eastern Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
Yep.
Right on.
I have a
around
Bigfoot
Benton,
report.
or
It was actually over by, gosh dang it, I'm trying to think of the name of the county. I can't think of the name of the county the guy lives in right now. You know how it is when you get to be my age and your mind goes.
I'm your age, so yes, I do.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like,
I have a Bigfoot report.
You do?
He fell over.
That's Wolf County.
Are you
Wolf
serious?
County.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I
And he
used
got
to.
crapped on by two birds.
Oh,
I used to spend a lot of time in that area, land between the lakes and over
Yeah.
toward Benton, the other side of the bridge.
yeah, it's a big pleasure having Markham back on the show in person.
Live. Here.
Live. Here in the
Live.
studio.
Hi, Markham.
Hi.
So how you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing pretty good, and this sounds like an awesome podcast. We got an awesome crowd here.
Oh, this is nothing. Wait till Roundtable next week.
Yeah. Then it gets a little wild. Hey, Tim.
We got Tim in the chat room.
Tim is in the
Yep.
chat room.
Excellent. So, getting started. Actually, you had an announcement, didn't you?
No, I'll wait for the third hour for that. Let's get straight into Jeremy.
Oh, right. All right.
Well, not. We're not that close to Jeremy. I'm sorry.
So, tell us your story, Jeremy. Everyone's got a story. So, growing up, I was never into UFOs. I didn't even get into the paranormal field until 1990 in Stuttgart, Germany. Actually, that was my introduction to the paranormal. Growing up, I growing up in the 70s and 80s, you could tell me there was a UFO, and I'd be excited and think it was cool, but I never had that experience. I didn't see my first UFO until sometime in the 90s in Germany. What got you into UFOs? I mean, why MUFON? Why stars?
Well, yeah, your story's very similar to mine. I wasn't into UFOs. I'd have to say I was into a little bit of sci-fi. I liked Star Wars growing up as a kid, and I did watch Star Trek on TV. But that is about as far as it went with aliens or UFOs. I thought that might be possible, but I figured you should put that in the category of Tooth Fairy, Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, category. It's what I called. So how it started was I was 16. And it was March the 20th, 1996, Victoria, Texas. It's kind of south near Corpus. Austin and Houston is kind of the crossroads. But anyway, I was a cadet at the Marine Military Academy down in Harlingen, Texas, and I came home for spring break. And so I had a week, and one of my buddies, I didn't have a driver's license, but one of my friends that lived in the neighborhood had one, and we were going to go down to South Padre Island, to do what every 16-year-old, wants to do, try to find beer and try to find women or whatever. That was my objective. But anyway, that changed. I was walking over to his house, and our neighborhood curved around the corner. And when I made that curve, there was this light hovering about 100 feet off the ground. Now, this is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Dead, so the sun was in my eyes, but I could see this object, and it was brighter than the sun, and I couldn't tell what it was. So I stood there for about 5 minutes trying to figure out what this thing is, and I couldn't figure it out. So I said, well, I need a grown-up will know what the answer to this. So I need a grown-up to tell me what this is. So I went across the street, and I rang the doorbell, and I never met this guy before, but his name was Dick Johns. And he stepped out, and I introduced myself. I said, real calm-like, hi, my name is Jeremy Ray. I live down the street. I was just happened to be walking through this neighborhood, and I see this light in the sky, and I can't figure out what it is. And I was hoping you could tell me what it is. So he steps off his porch, looks right up at the light, and totally freaks out and runs inside. Okay? And I thought, wow, you're eccentric. Let me ring another neighbor. So halfway walking to that house, he comes out with his wife. Let me back up. He didn't have a shirt on, so I think he went back in to get a shirt on. Right. And grabbed his sunglasses and came out with the camera and came out with his wife. So we stood there, and I was like, we're trying to figure out what this is, and he kept telling me, no, that's not that. I don't know what this is. So the sunlight was hitting me in the eyes, and I wanted to get under it so I could see what it. Let me describe the object. So you guys get a better picture. It was like an oval, flattened shaped light, and at the ends you had these, like, if you can imagine, beams or like a string that comes out on the left and right, and when you followed the leading edge, it started to become transparent. So the best way to describe it is if you were walking in a parking lot and the sun's beating down on a bumper, like a chrome bumper, that's what it looked like, okay? And how it moved, when you're walking and the light kind of follows you, it's kind of how it looked. It was like I say, it was brighter than the sun, but it didn't hurt your eyes to look at it. So I wanted to get under it to see what was under it. And so I started to walk forward. And when I did, Dick said, it's moving back. And I'm looking right at it, and that sucker is not moving. And this thing's about 100 feet off the ground, almost, treetop level. I mean, it's right in my face. But I just kept walking towards it, and I wasn't getting to it. I couldn't figure it out. And he said it was backing up. So I turned around. I started to walk back towards him and his wife. And then this object, he's like, oh, my God, it's following you back. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So actually, I have to backtrack. There's one thing I forgot to add. Before this happened, Dick went to take a picture. And when he went to take a picture, the object shot up into the sun, because the sun was at at an angle. It was right below it, and it got up into the sun to where you couldn't take the picture. So I thought it was going to leave, and I said, Dick, put the camera down. As soon as he put the camera down, the object came back to the exact position where it was at. During that moment, I realized that this was under some kind of intelligent control, and that's when I started to walk towards it, and it started to back up. So when I moved forward, it backed up. When I came back, it followed me. When I walked across the street, it followed me. Every time I tried to get under it or try to get around it, it would not let me do it. So I came up with this plan to walk. I told Dick, I said, hey, Dick, I got an idea. I'm going to walk past you, and while it follows me, since it's following me, when it goes over you, tell me what you see. Because, like I say, the sun's in our eyes. And so I walk past Dick, and the object comes close to Dick but stops and doesn't go over it. It doesn't go over him. So whatever this thing was, it was preventing us from us to get under it. So anyway, during that time, I flanked all the way around, and I got behind it on the opposite side. And Mrs. Ladwick and I think her daughter were looking out the window, wondering what I'm doing in their yard. And so they came out, and Miss Ladwick, I said, Miss Ladwick, you're not going to believe this. Check this out. And I just remember her saying, oh, my God. And she walked towards it, and when she got under it, everything lit up super bright. Like, I remember everybody's shadows got darker, and I jerked my head up to look back up at the object, and it looked like, the best way to describe it is, if you look at a rattlesnake and you have scales, each of the scales were flashing different colors. It was pink, blue, or purplish, and all this happened in like less than a second. But if you had a rubber band and you cut the rubber band and you held one end and I held the other, and we let go of it at the same time, that's probably the best description I could describe of how it took off. It looked like it folded upon itself, but it was so fast, I can't tell you where it went. And yeah, I mean, there was no sound, there was no wind, just a real bright light. And Mrs. Ladwick was blind by the flash, and she had to take a knee on the grass. And she described it as like if you push on your eyes really hard, and then you let go, and you got that blackness, and it takes a while for it to fade in so you can start seeing. Mm-hmm. That's the way she described it. So all that happened in about 15 minutes, and that one day changed my whole life, my whole perspective. Just boom, gone, and that started my journey, dude. Okay. And then later on down the road, probably many years later, I didn't really know of a UFO. I started reading books. One of my first books was Timothy Good, Above Top Secret. Okay. I read that one night, and I read a bunch of his books, and then I was going to Hollywood Video, or you remember those Blockbusters, and I was writing UFO documentaries. And I was trying to learn as much as I could about this. And then one day, someone said, hey, a MUFON representative's coming to Victoria, Texas. And I was like, well, what's MUFON? What is that? And it's like, they're UFO investigators. You should go talk to them. They're at the convention center. You should go talk to them and tell them what happened to you. I said, oh, I will. And I met this woman. Her name was Doris Upchurch. She's not around anymore. She passed away several years ago. But she was from the Corpus Christi chapter in Texas, and I told her my story, and it was really the first time that I felt like she believes me. She's listening to every time I told a story as a kid, you always get that pushback, right, or people try to change the subject or call you crazy, or you get the ridicule factor. And here I had her undivided attention, and to me that was amazing, because where I lived was the Bible Belt, and UFOs is the devil, Bobby Boucher. Don't talk about that stuff, Right. But yeah, that I would say. I remember asking her. I was like, "That is awesome. I'd love to do what you do. How much you get paid?" And she chuckled. She's like, "Oh, we don't get paid. We volunteer." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's still awesome." So anyway, I think later on in college, when I was studying to be an IT guy, I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a UFO investigator, and I just decided, even if they don't pay, I don't care. I'm doing it. And so I joined MUFON in 2006, and I've been with them since then. So that's basically it in a nutshell. That's what got me started.
So, Barry, have you ever heard of a craft description like that?
I have never heard of one folding in on it. I've never heard of one folding in on myself. I have heard of crafts that have done a similar thing, and I'm just wondering what happened to the woman. Did she have any other experiences? And Was there any missing time involved in it? Do you remember?
No, sir. No missing time because I remember it was 3 o'clock and around 3:15 it was all over with. Mrs. Ladwick has had experiences, and I have too. This wasn't my only UFO. I've had many strange experiences throughout my life, but that was the one that woke me up. And now as for Dick and his wife, I remembered several years later. There's more to the story. If we all lost our pictures at the same time. We did get pictures of it. The picture that I had was the blue sky in the background, and then he had one that had the blue sky in the background, and then he had the one over Mrs. Ladwick's house. So you could see the house, you could see the trees, and you could see the object. Well, Dick believes someone broke into his house and took those pictures. As for me, and my mother always knew that this was very important to me, that I would not. It just vanished. So I went over there to ask if he had the negatives, so I could get another copy. And he told me never talk about it again because he was scared because he believed someone broke into his house and took that whole packet. Now he did say many years later, I would say in the 2000s, that he was out sunbathing. And he said he saw it come down, the same thing we saw, it come down and then went back up. He saw it real quick. But I think that's the only UFO experience that he had. But that whole situation was, like I say, I'm leaving a little bit out. But when that incident ended, I ran home to tell my mother, and I had company at the house. I had an uncle that was there, and I just barged in and started interrupting, and they were having coffee, and I was spitting, I was totally amped up and juiced, and I was like, blah, 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 telling them everything. And I remember my mom taking a sip out of the coffee and looking at me and going, "That's great, son. That's great." And then she just turned to my uncle and continued to talk. And that made me so mad, dude, that's probably the first bad word I ever said in my house. And I was like, "Mother, how much coffee do you got?" And she goes, "I've got a whole pot. Why?" And I go, "Good, don't blink and drink it." And then I ran out the house, and I remember her saying, "Get back here," like I'm going to get popped. But so I ran over and got my neighbors and brought them over. And then I was pouring coffee, and I was like, "Tell her the story." I mean, I was so
Right. That's awesome.
like I say, but as for experiences, to answer your question, I've had experiences. Mrs. Ladwick has, and I guess Dick did too, because he saw it come back again. The same thing. Now, as me being a MUFON investigator and getting a chance to look at all these awesome UFO videos and stuff that people submit, I still haven't found one that looks like mine. And I also still don't have an answer that satisfies me. I mean, I'm 42 years old, and that happened when I was 16. I remember it like it was yesterday. And
I have heard of the way you describe the colors, like a scale. I have heard of craft like that. I've never heard of them folded on themselves.
I was wondering, could
it was late when it took off.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at. Could the folding be an optical? Say this thing is opening up some kind of wormhole. You're going to start getting you're going from real space and time into that. Jump. Yeah, so maybe that folding effect is an artifact, a visual artifact of the actual propulsion. Because it's going from real time, real space into that warp or whatever their technology is.
It did a portal jump.
So a portal jump.
It's the punch through space time then.
Well,
right. And the folding is because it's leaving the our space time and going into that hyperdrive.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think it went up. I don't think it went left or right. I think it just disappeared, but it just went into itself. Like, I don't know. It was the weirdest thing. It looked like some cheap special effects from like a Star Trek show. It looked like it didn't belong up there. And one thing, as being a UFO investigator and hearing all about this stuff, my theory of it, and it's just a theory, is I think it was what I was seeing was a cloaked craft, and I was only seeing an opening that wasn't fully cloaked.
Right.
Because when I followed the leading edge, the more transparent it got. It started to look, you couldn't see it, but it was long. So it could have been a bigger object, and I just happened to be catching a side of it that wasn't cloaking right. and it was right above Mrs. Ladwick's house.
Because that's that kind of leaves it open to being terrestrial in that we have technology, cloaking technology
through DARPA.
That
DARPA's been creating that.
Maybe
that kind
the
of
scales bend the light around the craft. It might have been homegrown.
Yep, but like I say, I can't say it's extraterrestrial because it didn't land in an alien, popped the hatch, and hopped out.
Right.
I just don't. It was a UFO. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Truly spectacular and amazing. And like I said, it was enough to change my whole life, my whole perspective.
Yeah,
it
everybody's
really
a skeptic
was like
until they're not. Yeah.
Right. And even if it was ours, that's still
amazing,
awesome.
Yes.
But I just, to this day, I still don't know.
I have a property in the mountains of North Carolina where it's really good dark sky country, and I see stuff up in the sky making, extreme 90-degree turns and all, the kind of stuff that would pulp a human pilot without some very advanced technology. So, I'm in the believer's court. Like I said, you don't have to see that too many times before the skepticism falls away.
Absolutely. Now, moving along, tell us about the STARS team. So, what is different between the STARS team and a regular MUFON investigation?
Well, as for now, for 2020, there really is no difference. It's just a title, but it just means you've probably done a lot of cases. And that's just the way I look at it now. But back then, when the STAR team was formed, the STAR team was, I think there was like 3 or 4 people in the beginning. This was when James Cameron was international director of MUFON. And then Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies started funding UFO research, and the project was called the SIP project. And I'm trying to remember, I think it was STAR. I think the acronym was, the S stand for STAR, Impact Project. Yeah. But STAR team, the acronym for that was, this sounds really awesome, but, Strike Team for Area Research, Rapid Response Special Unit. But basically it was supposed to be UFO investigators on call, ready to go at a moment's notice, like your car packed, ready to go, kind of like a QRF in the military. And when you got the call, not QRF. But you know what I mean.
It'd be the same as a QR, a quick reaction team.
Right, and then if you were in the area, boom. So something landed, like a heavy category case, like category 2s and 3s, to say something landed, or there might be some evidence. They'd want you to get to the scene and interview the witness less than 24 hours. And when Bigelow stepped in, we got paid for that. So that's how I got to be on the STAR team. I remembered James saying something to me about it, and then Richard Lang gave me the application. And when I filled out the application, it was requesting military or law enforcement, or at least that's what Bigelow wanted. But I remember that in the application. So I was like, military, and checked all that and filled it out. And then that's how I became a STAR team. And then I did 2 cases that I got paid on. So I would say that during my life, during that time, was probably one of the best times of my life, because here I am doing my hobby, and I've been doing it for a few years, and now I'm getting paid to do it. And that, to me, I was high on life. I felt like I was Agent Mulder when I was going, driving to do my case. And I didn't have to. This is how awesome it was. I didn't have to use my own personal vehicle. They'd rent a car for you, or they would have somebody already have the flight and the hotel and everything set up for you. You had your per diem. I mean, it was great. And all I had to do is find these people and sit down and talk to them. I mean, and have them tell what happened, and write up a good report. And that was it. And actually, I was kind of a fool. I thought I was going to make a living doing this, but this stuff don't happen all the time. Right. But I was gunning for it. But that was in 2008, like right after the Stephenville incident, or right around that time.
Actually, I think the Stephenville incident was a little bit after STAR Team started.
Okay.
And I think it was in 2009. I was in the same program, and it was an awesome time with Richard Lang and all that. It was good, and we did. It was a great time, because you're right. You weren't getting paid beforehand, and you were able to get paid. I always just converted mine back to MUFON and donated it back to MUFON. But it was a very special time, because that's the concept of a strike force that goes out immediately and handles the cases. And there were so many very interesting cases at the time when that transpired. And you're right, we didn't take your own car. You got called in. They gave you air flights. They gave you everything. So you went wherever they are.
Did they rent you a black expedition with government plates?
Negative.
Damn,
but I saw
smart cars.
Smart cars.
Oh God.
Not so smart.
I will. 68 VW bucks.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something that I don't really tell anybody, but I don't think it matters anymore. But you might find this interesting. I'm pretty sure you probably never heard me say this. So, in the beginning, during that 2008, and I'm sitting here. I was working a normal job, of course, and I'm waiting. Maybe I'll get. It had to be a category 2 or 3. It wasn't like lights in the sky where someone just walked outside and saw something zip and take off. They weren't going to pay you for that. It had to be like, I can't really remember what the 2s and 3s. It's been so long, but it would have to be something with evidence or a really hot case. So during that time, I was my first case. I was sitting at home, and I get an email, and I click on it, and from what I remembered, it said, "We got a hot case for you. You're the man for the job," or whatever. Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, "Oh wow, UFO case. This must be from Bigelow," because I didn't see no MUFON on there. And I looked up at the top, and I looked at the address, and it said usarmy.gov. Now I've been out of the Army for several years, past my 7 years. So I'm just wondering why the Army's hit me up. This isn't about a UFO case, and it has nothing to do with the VA, because I had great health. So I didn't know what this is about. So I just received that email, read it, and I had a lot of questions. So I looked down, and it had, I think it was like a sergeant first class, or could have been a specialist. I don't remember, but I just remember the name. And I had his phone number right there. I picked up the phone number. I called him. And then he answered, and I said, "Hi, I'm Jeremy Ray. I just got the email from you." And he's like, "Great. Well, we got a hot UFO case for you. You're the guy for it." And then I was like, "Oh, wow." And then I told him a little bit about, veterans talk about, they brag about what they did, And I was like, "Yeah, I was 82nd. I jumped out of the airplane, blah, blah, blah. So what do you do, sir?" And he said, "Well, man, I wish I wrote this down." But he gave me his MOS. He said he worked at the Pentagon, and he told me, "Actually, I'm sitting at my desk right now." And then I asked him, "Well, what does this got to do with MUFON?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I am a MUFON member, and I'm also a MUFON investigator." And I go, "Well, that's awesome. All right, well, thank you very much for the case," and blah, blah, blah. And I got off, and then I was so hyper-focused about getting this done. And then about 20 minutes to 30 minutes later, I get an email from Richard Lang giving me that information for the case. It's not that I didn't put 2 to 2 together. I just figured the guy was doing his hobby by using a U.S. Army government email, which would get you in so much trouble. I think it would. So back in my mind, I was wondering.
What they don't know won't hurt them. I've done some shady shit before.
Right.
But S-4 from the lab.
Yeah.
But he was a really nice guy, and I was thinking, well, don't pop your mouth out about that, because he might get in trouble for that shit if it ever goes back to him. So I just kept my mouth shut about it, and then I went and did this awesome case. And then, of course, now we all know that, Bigelow, Senator Reid had that all put together, and the intelligence community was put money into Bigelow, and that trickled down to MUFON, and that's how we got paid. So the DOD was involved in all that. But back in the day, I really didn't know that.
Right.
I was just, I was really just hyper focused on doing this case. I was so excited to finally get one. But yeah, that's how it started. I think it was an accident. I don't think that guy meant to fire me an email. But that was it. So I thought I'd share that with you guys.
You know, when I was in Third Army, I used to print out UFO reports during 24-hour duty all the time, using the government computers and their paper and their printer. What they don't know just never hurt them. So,
well, knowing my luck, I got red here. I'd probably be doing a lot of push-ups. I could never get away with anything. So
right. So, is there any special training or requirements to be on the STAR team? You kind of answered that with for military and law enforcement, but is there any other?
I remember I did some I would say no. I think you had to have a certain amount of cases under your belt. I couldn't remember the exact number. And even though I did the field investigator trainings every year at the symposiums, I didn't really learn much because I was already there. No, not really. Just, I don't remember the exact number. I think you just needed I don't know if it was 5 or 10 cases under your belt. I don't remember. But I felt very blessed and I felt privileged being on the team during that time. But right now, of course, Bigelow's not doing all that, and we're not getting paid. But the STAR team is just kind of like a title in MUFON that says I guess you've been here for a little while. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
I'll share a little bit more light on that.
Thank you.
Jeremy's right about that. And when he first mentioned about it was based on the valet classifications and categories for it, and it started out with FB2, and then you would go from that. FB2 was the start of it, basically accompanied by a physical evidence of some sort, a flyby, and then we would go out on that all the way up to the CE4s and 5s. The project was, at the time, we wanted the real good investigators, so we looked for investigators that had high number of cases, and you had to have a minimum of 10. You had to be a field investigator for a few years, and so that gave you an opportunity to do that and get your experience in. Didn't want new people just hitting the road and going out going, hey, this is how we do this. It was very boots on the ground, very field at hand. They had equipment that you could take. You didn't have, if you didn't have your own equipment, they would actually send you with equipment. And then at that time, you did everything just like a full investigation did. Some of them were very detailed. Others of them weren't. After the Bigelow ordeal, STAR team was revamped in early 2010. Chase Gillespie took over as STAR team director at that time, the DOI of STAR team. And then it went on for a few years, and then it kind of waned for a little bit, and now it is underneath each of the state directors. You pick your own STAR team people, and we basically use the same idea as STAR team. When we have a major case, we want to put our best on it. I like to have my investigators have at least 20 cases before I put them on STAR team.
Right.
And I like to work with them. So, and I try to go out with them on the first STAR team case if they are picked for that, and do everything with them. So
what kind of gear do they go out with? Do they? I'd imagine like a Geiger counter or radiation detector.
The Geiger counter thing. I remember them telling me if I needed one, they would FedEx it to me. I remember that. Yeah. I'll
tell you one thing. That was one thing. And some of the cases that you wanted to go, you definitely wanted to have, because you look and you go, hey, do I want to walk over there?
Right?
Yeah. And we also had, did you get that Walmart credit card? That was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we had this little, I still have mine.
Yeah.
but it had a zero balance on it. And I remember once I got activated, depending on whatever the situation was, somebody would go to Walmart and deposit that money. And I remember telling my uncle about this, and he was like, "That sounds kind of shady, Jeremy. Who are you working for again?" And I was like, "It's like, well, it seems like they don't want to keep track of the money, And I was like, "Well, that's one thing to think about." But I never got any money from using my Walmart card. I didn't have to travel that far anyway, and I didn't need any. It's like if you needed to buy a Geiger counter, and there just happens to be a shop next door that sells one, then I guess you could call them and say, "Hey, put a deposit on the Walmart card so I can purchase this product," and then you'll fill out an expense report at the end. But yeah, I didn't. I just the only thing I put on my expense report was just the per diem and the food. Everything was 2 hours away. It was just a nice little road trip for me.
I would be so bad at this job. Like, there'd be expense reports explaining why I needed cheese balls on an investigation.
And it was the Men in Black that probably deposited the money through Walmart. Yeah.
I knew Walmart.
But yeah,
did some shady stuff.
Yeah, but we went on some.
We kind of hide.
We did go on.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what my uncle was telling me when I told him about it. I was like, "Check out this fancy credit card I got." Anyway, he wasn't too thrilled about it.
No. So let's see. So what's your experience in dealing with abductions? Have you ever dealt with any abduction cases?
Very few. I forgot there's what is that team called? Not the ERT, but the
ERT is the experiencers team.
Experiencers, sorry.
Yeah.
I've got a case where I've worked with the ERTs, but I just did the interview and they did a follow up. But I've had to probably a handful. I can count on my hand, not that many. And just sometimes I think that there might be something else going on, but not abductions. But this one lady swear it sounded like she was having poltergeist activity, but like I'm not an expert at that anyway.
Right.
Just trying to say that sometimes it's a great example. We compartmentalize or put things into thoughts of it's this category A, category B, and sometimes it might not be that. So let's say like an ET comes in to abduct somebody and just walks through the wall. That could be a ghost too. Ghosts walk through the wall.
Absolutely.
So it all depends on the person's point of view, whether they contact MUFON or they contact somebody else, a different investigator, paranormal investigator. I just, when I did those cases, I just took the report, let the lady tell me, and I wrote down every detail as I could that she didn't put in her short and long description, some things she might have not have added, and put that in there. That's about as far as it's gone with me. I've never gone to someone's house. Well, I take that back. Yes, this is a good one. I'm sorry, I'm getting old too, and I'm forgetting all these. There was
what? Here's the deal. When we did this, we handled 5 to 10 cases a day, and after a while, they just get jumbled.
Yeah, sometimes I do remember them, and I'm like, how could I forget that? That was amazing.
Right.
But it's one guy. That was having constant harassment. He said that they were coming in and hurting him, and he had pictures of a lot of scratches on him, and he was, he'd keep a camera by his bed, and then when he'd think it was happening, he would just start shooting pictures in the dark. And he had these weird things that didn't look like aliens, but just these swirls of smoke and that almost looked like it would make a figure. So anyway, me and this guy named Dr. Joseph Burks. Dr. Burks lives up in Humboldt County, and he was a MUFON investigator for a while, but he specializes in contactees. And I think he was with Dr. Greer a long time ago before anybody knew what said he was.
Right.
This is like way back in the very, very beginning. And then they had a little falling out. And he still goes out and finds people that have ongoing UFO experiences and likes to interview them and write up reports. So he and I remember Ruben Yorte, state director of California, because I was in California during that time. Me and Dr. Burks had to get permission from MUFON to stay at this guy's house. This guy lived up in the mountains, and it was a long trip and it would just be dangerous for us to go up there and then leave at night, coming down the mountain. So we had permission. He had to fill out, I think he had to fill out something, and we stayed the night. And I pulled kind of like guard that night. Nothing happened. He did point out Venus a lot and said that was the mothership, but still, to me, didn't discredit him, because I do believe that there was. I mean, I believe that he believed that something was happening to him. Right. But like I said, nothing. I didn't see anything crazy that night, but we did have a lot of time to hear this guy's life story, and that was probably one of the hardest UFO cases to fill out, because it wasn't just focusing on the incident; it was basically focusing on all the incidences that this man had through his entire life. And we did. I kind of gave Dr. Burks most of all the hard work, but it's a pretty big report. He put every detail in he could, but I don't know if anything really happened to him or not. The reason why I discount the Venus situation is I've had cases with police officers, sheriff's deputies, that kept telling me this UFO kept coming back, and they were mistaken it as a star, and they realized their error later on. And, so a lot of people are not trained, or they don't really know the sky that well, and you got to put that into account. That's why I tell people to download that Google Sky Map or Sky Map. That'll save a lot of time. You
look at planetary charts, and you can figure it out. And
yes, sir.
That's a common mistake.
Yeah, but besides that, I mean, anything good or juicy, I don't really have anything really to add on the abductions. The cases I've done have just been UFOs. Mm-hmm. I do have one amazing one that was a STAR team case that was an abduction and missing time and all that stuff. But I'd say out of the 150 cases or how many I've done, I haven't had really hardcore cases like that. Most of them are just lights in the sky, or changing the flight characteristics seem odd, changing direction, stopping on a dime. But of course, we've got drones these days, and so it's making it a little bit more difficult. But we have teams of MUFON like the ERT and Mars, and that specialize in concentrating on specific things. But as for me, I just do the sightings that people have. Okay. At least that's how it's been for a while.
And so that kind of answers my next question: is have you had any close encounters with UFOs or any specific alien races?
That first one, March the 20th, was less than 500 feet, so that would be close encounter of the first kind, and then. I guess the reality transformation, I would say that my reality totally transformed after that. So that would be a close encounter of the, I'd have to look at the chart one more time. Sorry, guys. But anyway, have I ever seen anything?
It sounds to me like the fifth kind, because the fifth kind is when you can actually do conscious, not trajectory, I'm trying to think of the right word, but when they actually respond to you consciously, would be the fifth kind.
Yeah, I've had some things that has happened to me in my life that I can't say I've seen an alien because that's not right. I don't know what I saw, but yeah, I mean, and part of me doesn't talk about it. I don't really tell people about it because no one would believe me anyway, and it's just bizarro. And people probably think I'm freaking crazy, so I just kind of keep that to myself. But I've seen something that I can't explain.
I hear that.
You're in good company.
Really? I take the taco on this one, man. I'm serious.
I've encountered the reptilians twice. Yeah.
All right. No. Well, then I guess I'll just shoot. I've never said this on a podcast. No one's gonna. I don't care. I don't care if I get attacked for this. It just happened.
You won't.
I was at a symposium in or a MUFON before I joined MUFON. I was up in Sacramento, California, and one of my neighbors came up and said that their Bud Hopkins was coming into town, And I remember seeing Bud Hopkins on Unsolved Mysteries when I was growing up, and I was like, oh, wow, yeah, I'll go. How much is the ticket? So I'll go check this out. So I go, and I remember Ruben Yorte was there, but I didn't know Ruben back then, and they had a couple of other MUFON. So I know MUFON was hosting this, and it was at the Doubletree Hotel, and it was a nice little room, and Bud got up there, and he started talking and showing some UFO videos that his abductees have filmed, and some of them were very impressive. And it got to the part, I think we had an intermission or a break after about an hour and a half. We got to go use the restroom and stuff. And I came back in and I sat down. He started his second part of his presentation, and he was talking about alien hybrids. And he had a picture of this sketch, this drawing of, looked like an alien with a hat on, trying to look human, blending in, it was just a sketch. And I remember looking up at that, and it's actually that same sketch is in one of his books. I'd have to dig through my library to find it. But I was looking up at that picture, and I go, well, that's crazy, 'cause this is the first time me ever hearing about this. And I was like, wouldn't that be crazy if they knew that we were talking about them right now? And wouldn't that be crazy if they were in this room right now? And once I said that in my mind, I had this feeling I was being watched. Yeah. And my head just jerked to the right, and right to the aisle right over is this freaking alien looking at me. And it was probably one of the scariest things I've ever seen. And the people, what was really weird is this auditorium was packed, and the people sitting right next to it didn't even realize that it was there. And my first reaction was to scream and yell and go, "Shut up, Bud. Here it is, right here." You know what I mean? like Ray and Ghostbusters, grab it. That was my first instinct, and I couldn't get up out of my chair. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. It had control over me. But anyway, I'll describe what it looked like. It looked very frail, had a very thin neck, big head, black eyes, had kind of a nose, not a mouth, but it was wearing two wigs. So one wig was stretched over the top of it, and the other one I could see the elastic band, and then it was wearing an old lady's hat. So this wasn't somebody with serious bad plastic surgery. This was not, for me, this was not human. And when it looked at me, and tell me if you've ever heard this before, because I haven't. I thought it had long eyelashes. And then when I started to look at it, because it was closing its eyelids, and when it closed its eyelids, I could see the bulge of how big its eyeball was, oh my God, how to describe it? It wasn't eyelashes. It was like if you look at a bright light and you squint your eyes, you could see the beams coming out. That's what it looked like to me, except it was black, and they were moving. And I think what I was looking at, because it looked like it was reaching out, like maybe a few inches from the face. But when I would make eye contact with it, I was kind of like locked into it. I couldn't, like I say, I wanted to move. And I turned my whole body. So people behind me in the audience, this wasn't really a dark lit room. They should be looking at me going, what is this guy looking at? And turn and look at what I'm looking at. And nobody did. Nobody. I looked at everybody, and everybody was just smiling, looking up at Bud Hopkins. I couldn't react. I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything. So you could take it as what you want. That happened to me. That's just one out of many weird things that happened to me. But I've always tried to rationalize and go, what if Bud Hopkins hypnotized all of us? And all of a sudden I'm believing I'm seeing what I'm seeing. I tried everything, but to come up with a down-to-earth explanation of what happened to me. But I still sticking to my gut. That was not human. And whatever that was allowed me to see it. So many years later, this is important. Many years later, probably 2 years later, I started really thinking about this really hard and go, God, I was such a shit. I should have, instead of acting like that and, trying to grab it or whatever, I should have just, and that's not what I was going to do. I was just going to be like, everybody look at this, I said to myself, if you could go back in time and do that all over again, what would you do differently? And I said, well, first thing I would do is say, thank you for allowing me to see you. And I'm such ashamed for how I reacted. I could have learned something from this experience instead of you holding me down, because I was not in control. But anyway, when I said those words in my mind, Thank you for allowing me to see you. All of a sudden, I got this download, and that's the best way I can describe it. I started seeing what they're like crop circle images, but they were shapes. They weren't like in grass, and it hit me right in the center of my head. And when it hit me in the head, I felt like not like a breeze, but like something physical hitting me in my third eye area. And it was like 1 image, 4 images, 10 images, 100 images, 200, 1,000, and it just kept going real fast. It was like. And it scared the hell out of me. And I jumped up off my chair and I yelled, "Stop!" And it stopped. Yep. Now, I don't know how many images I saw, but I saw a lot in about 5 or 6 seconds. And I knew when it was happening, it was coming from that thing. So just the fact that I was thinking about it, somehow it was able to know I was thinking about it and sent that to me. And
bond at that moment,
right.
Apparently.
Oh yeah, you probably formed up.
The information download is common. It really is. And it's It's funny. Anytime you go to a Paracon or a UFO symposium, you could always expect aliens to show up. I mean, we've had them show up at the Forest Moon Paracon before. You know, and I've had alien. I met an alien at the Spaced Out Radio Paracon that we spoke at a couple years ago. Anytime, it's either going to be a Men in Black, or just someone that looks off, or it is an alien. And I don't know. I think they show up to see what we know, or see they find an interest. Oh, they're talking about us. It's weird, but you can always look for them.
Well, so I wasn't even looking for it. It was just, I thought, wouldn't that be crazy if there's one in here right now, knowing that we're talking about it? And as soon as I said that in my head, it was an automatic intuition, turned it hard right and look, and that thing was right there. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't get up. I couldn't move. It looked very frail. It looked, like a 100-year-old lady. The way the posture was, and the way the head was too big for the body, and the neck was really, really really skinny.
Like the gravity is, one Earth gravity is a little bit much for their. Of course, if they're spacefaring, you would think that they'd have a little trouble with Earth normal gravity.
Or that's their suit.
Or some kind of encounter suit.
Right.
So I guess they dress up like us, and then use their psychic powers or whatever they have to make them look normal while they walk amongst us. She, I know it was a female because I felt that. There was a female...
feminine energy.
Feminine energy. I felt it like right in my chest. I can go on about what happened when it left and all that, but that's basically it. That nobody noticed it, and that just blew me away.
It's interesting. It's interesting how they can do that, because you can have a crowd of 100 people and only 3 will actually see the UFO, even though it's flying right over their head. They can pick and choose who's going to see them and turn everybody else off.
You pretty much have to be open to the experience.
Right.
They must be able to sense if you're open to the experience, or worthwhile to reveal themselves to somehow.
Right.
I think since I've had ongoing experiences and actually experimented going out there trying to see this stuff, that this is just my opinion, and I'm probably right. I don't know if y'all disagree, but I think whatever's on board that craft, how the radar system works, it directly interfaces with consciousness. So if you have a grasshopper sitting on a piece of grass and a UFO is hovering right above it, and the grasshopper looks up and sees the UFO knows it's been seen by the grasshopper. And I know you're right about you might have a group of people and 3 people are seeing it, right, and the others don't. So what I'm trying to say is, my conclusion is that if you're seeing one, number one, you're being allowed to see it. I think that from some of these sightings that I've had, that they want you to see them, and that's why you're seeing it. If not, you wouldn't be able to see it.
Absolutely.
That's just.
Like
I've seen them. I've seen them hide through clouds. I've seen them use clouds as a camouflage.
Yeah, Mount Shasta especially. I've got pictures of a cloud. Every other cloud in the sky was moving, except that one that was hanging on the tip of Mount Shasta.
Right.
And its shape would morph, but it would not move with the rest of the clouds. And I had, independent observations from other people that kind of backed that up. So it was masters of disguise, apparently. Camouflage.
Yeah. Well, August of 2008, another sighting that I had was the cloud. I was out in my friend's backyard about 1 a.m, finishing up my last cigarette and about to go home and go to bed. And there was no clouds in the sky, and there was this low cloud about the size of a car coming straight at me, and it looked like if it was a car, it'd be going about 55 miles an hour. And I'm like, wow, that looks like a UFO. Of course, I knew it wasn't. It was a cloud, and it's coming right towards me. And I was like, well, it's going to go right over my head. Let's look up at it. So it went right over my head. I looked right up at it, and then I brought my head down and I looked at the grass. And as soon as I did that, the whole entire backyard lit up bright blue. I jerked my head back up to look up, and it was daytime. It went from pitch black from horizon to horizon. It was like noon. And we live near a cemetery, and at night you can't see the tombstones. And I could see every tombstone all the way, as far as I could see. Just all in in a second and a half. So when I jerked up and I looked up at the cloud, I could see inside the cloud was a donut-shaped, metallic-shaped craft that it wasn't hollow, but it was donut-shaped because it curved in. But I think in the middle there was something up in there. But the outer windows was all that blue color, and then I watched the light retract back into the craft, kind of like a curtain or like water. It wasn't like a normal light. And I felt a little tap on my head when the light happened, and when I jerked my head up to see what was going on, everything I'm describing is what I'm seeing. All the tombstones, noon. It was like daytime, and then I watched the light go into the craft, and then it was darkness again. But the cloud stayed right above my head. And I was so stunned. I thought this was Uncle Sam flying their high-tech craft over. It's like, hey, let's mess with this military UFO ex-military UFO investigator. Let's fly our high-tech craft over and see what he does. So I remember giving a thumbs up, and I remember giving a salute, because I don't know what's up there. But the cloud didn't move. And I watched what was interesting about the cloud. And this is really low. I could see that right when the condensation start to dissipate, another part of it would come in and fill in that gap. And I watched that many times, and I started thinking, you know what? That thing is still up there, and I just can't see it. They're still there. They didn't leave. That happened to me in 2008. I've had those two UFO experiences I just told you about, 1996 and the one and two, were probably the biggest UFO experiences I ever had. And I've had others, not that close and not that traumatic, but that's why, from my own personal experiences, I know they use clouds as a cover. That one did, and I got front row tickets to it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Excellent, because everything that you've said, we agree with 100% because we've all seen it. Myself personally, and one of the things about it is that some of the investigators don't really tell their stories. Because of the ridicule and everything else. That's the social conditioning of being crazy and all that other stuff. We've all heard that 100 times. And it's hard to break that molding, be able to get out of that, and to be able to really tell it, because I think it's important. And I think that it could have been related to your very first experience that you had. They already had, they have your number, if you will, and they can speak to you. They do want to show you this. They want you to remember that they are out there, and also the same thing with the alien that you saw. It did communicate with you. It did personally wanted you to see it, so you could see for yourself that it was there. And there may have been one or two other people in the audience that also recognized it, but you wouldn't have known it anyway, because it was just there for their experiences. They do show up at these things. We've had a lot of abductees and other people comment about that. We personally have seen them at things, just like Eric said earlier. And it does happen. And it's an amazing thing. One of the things that I got to go back to when you were talking about...
I'm going to cut you off there, Barry, for a minute. We got to go to our first break. So, ladies and gentlemen, do not forget, you got 1 hour left to vote for last week's creature battle. So head over to the...
Harvey versus Griffin.
No.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, yeah, it is. Harvey versus Griffin. So, head over to the Facebook page, Forest Moon Paranormal. Vote for that. We will be back in 5 minutes with Jeremy Ray. Here is Crypt Amnesia with Poltergeist.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I'm rotted here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire. But I cannot die, I am your poltergeist. I must have 1,000 souls trapped inside. 1,000 souls that are haunting in my eye. You keep trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. You keep trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I brought it here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire. But I cannot die. I am your poltergeist, poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. I'll eat your dreams while you immerse in all of your hate. Just waste away like you're destined by your fate. I'll be alive but I'm dead to watch you die. So go ahead and take my life, I dare you to try it. You keep trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. You keep trying to kill me, but I cannot die. You try to ignore me, but I haunt you deep inside. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I brought it here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire. But I cannot die. I am your poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Oh, poltergeist, poltergeist. Poltergeist, poltergeist. Oh, you're caving in, the loss of sleep keeps you obsessing on your pride. But in the end, you let me in. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I'm rotted here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I catch fire. But I cannot die, I am your motherfucker. They say I'm evil, they say I'm dead inside. Check out my ego, 'cause I brought it here tonight. Just burn me like a witch, and watch as I
host, Eric Cooper.
And welcome back to S4. Tonight we got Jeremy Ray from the MUFON Stars team.
Awesome first hour, by the way.
We are still, huh?
Awesome first hour.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm so tired. It's just, yeah. We're counting down. We are counting down to hit the road.
24 hours and we're in a hot tub.
Oh, I know.
Friend.
Hot tub, mountains.
Making S4 stew.
Oh, God.
You know what? You guys can have the hot tub then. I'm out.
Look at that. We got rid of one of them.
But I gotta say, we're so slack, and there's supposed to be our Bigfoot gifting site video on the website. But we are making, are we not? We're making some new videos to put on the website while we're up in the mountains.
Yeah.
You're taking the camera,
I like how you just did that. Like, Cole slacking as well.
I said we're slacking. We're slacking. But yeah, we're going to do some cool new videos to throw up on the website while we're out and about in the mountains in Bigfoot country again. Because we have Bigfoot country right here in our own backyard. And so
we've heard the wood knock.
Right?
The structure. And it wasn't that random crap. It actually had structure to it.
Yeah, as he says, damn it, Cole. Jeremy, have you ever, in your experiences, had any Bigfoot encounters?
No, sir, but I'll tell you what, I went to David Paulides, one of his talks. Oh, right my God, what it was called The Mile High Mystery. Right. And it's up in the mountains, and he talked about his missing people, and then we had all these Bigfoot people there. And some of the backgrounds, these guys were ex-Rangers, very credible people that go out and try to find Bigfoot. And they showed me a lot of their footage, and I'll tell you what, after leaving that, I am a true believer that Bigfoot does exist, but I've never seen one.
You come here, we will take you in the woods, and you'll hear Bigfoot knocks. I can guarantee it.
They let it.
That sounded really creepy.
It's the squeals and them talking. I've actually listened to audio feed of Bigfoot talking to each other, and if I ever heard that out in the woods, it would make Blair Witch look like, oh God, I can't even come up with it.
So Blair Witch already looks like. I'm just.
But that would be my first question: is do they speak our language or?
No, it was. But it was.
They sound primate.
The Native Americans say that they're another tribe too. But like I say, I don't doubt it. I'll just say whoever they are way better than ninjas when it comes to disappearing.
Well, I like the saying they're the hide and seek champions of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And that leads me to a question I wanted to ask later, but since we only got you for 2 hours, I'll ask it. 82nd Airborne. I gotta admit, I'm not scared of a whole lot. I've walked into houses that were haunted and dealt with spirits and whatnot, and Bigfoot knocks don't freak me out. Aliens definitely don't freak me out. Don't you think being military kind of takes the fear factor of the paranormal away a little bit?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane at 800 feet at pitch black darkness, and I don't have time to pull my reserve, and we're running out, and I'd say that's probably one of the most scared I've ever been in my life is every jump. And then when I was in combat, I was in a mortar attack and something else. And when you're in that moment, it all depends. I think I was always really, really scared right before I jumped. But when I was out there in the air coming down, there was no fear. And when I was in combat, I was always scared getting to where I knew there was going to be action. But when the action happened, I would snap into like this mode where I was like in a movie and I'm the actor playing a character. And for some reason, I didn't, it was a calming thing. We all had our job to do and we did it. So when it was hitting the fan for me, I don't remember any fear. I just remember being hyper focused and trying to do the best job that I could do.
The training takes over.
Yes, sir. And then after it's over with, then you have the fallout, and maybe some emotion might kick in. But it was always the waiting before you jump, or the first, I don't want to get into the combat stuff, but yeah, I've been there and done it. And I would say, yes, the paranormal, the only thing that you have to say to yourself if you're approaching something like that is, if it's not going to kill you, what do you have to fear? And if it is going to kill you, well, who cares? You're just going to go to sleep. So sometimes when I'm really, really scared, like at my job, there's on top of the roof. Sometimes I have to go up there. It's on top of a skyscraper, and it'll be pitch black up there. And I'm walking through darkness, and I don't take my flashlight up there because I test myself to push my, test my fear.
Right.
And if I am getting scared, then what I do is I get angry, and that'll motivate me to go forward. That's how I deal with it. So
I get asked
everybody
about
does
that
it different.
because of being the scientist on paranormal teams. It's like, yes, I do get scared. I get alarmed like anybody else, but my override, it just seems like my instincts kick in. What is this? And I get a delayed reaction. It's like, oh, I should have been scared of that later.
You think you're going to react a certain way, but you really don't know. Even if you know yourself, you don't really know until you're in that situation, and then you can kind of look back and go, wow, I can pat myself on the back, or I can be like, wow, you were a coward. It all depends, but I'd say the most time I've been scared was in the military in the 82nd. Definitely. My life was, there's a couple of incidents that happened in Kosovo. I shouldn't even be here. I'm very lucky, so I believe somebody upstairs is looking out for me. And there you go. But as for like the ET that I saw, I wasn't scared. I think somebody else would have been terrified. The first thought that came through my mind when I saw it was, what an ugly, hideous creature you are. And when I said those words in my mind, I got this feeling that I hurt his feelings.
Right.
I swear, that might all be in my head. But that was, and I think any normal person would have been scared. But as for me, I was like, here's the gold. Here's the gold mine. All we got to do is get it. And then when we got the evidence, it's right here. Why can't I not move? Why can't I pick my feet up? Why can't I not scream? Why am I not in control of my body? That should terrify somebody, but it didn't scare me. I had a smoothing, calming feeling come over me. Kind of like a...
Do you think, like, when you have your first experience that they, like, add you to a, I guess, for vernacular, to say, like, add you to a network? And like from that moment on, you're always kind of hooked into their watch system.
I think I can kind of answer your question. The other UFOs that I've seen, I would have a feeling, a precognition before it happened. I'd get this feeling, real quick. It's a good feeling. It's not bad, but it's something that it's like a signature that I would be like, oh, I've had this feeling before, and they must be here. And I'll be looking around, see if I see something. It doesn't happen as often as it used to, but in 2007, that was happening on a regular basis with me. I've seen UFOs. I thought I was going crazy. I needed to bring my skeptical friends to come with me, and then they see it with me. So I've been reinforced to know that this is all real. I'm not going nuts. But yeah, there's been a few times where I'd get this feeling that they're coming or they're going to show up, and I'd go outside and voila, I would see something. Maybe like that might answer your question. I don't know.
So Markham's kind of got this theory about they give off a certain frequency, and it might be a little more than that, where it connects to a brain frequency, which helps with a precondition, depending on the race. Because we know there's multiple races that are visiting. Some are good, some are bad, but you're connected to the certain frequency of that certain race.
Yeah, I never met. I don't think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
More like an animal, how they can sense if like a fire is around, or they can sense if there's going to be an earthquake.
I think it's more than that, though.
I think it's more of a conscious. You're plugged in somehow. Once they find you're receptive, it's kind of like a Facebook. We'll friend that one.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I would say all my, I'm not going to say all of them, but the majority of all the sightings that I've had have been positive, have been good, haven't been anything bad, and I feel good. I feel uplifted, not like extreme, like it's more like you haven't seen a friend in a long time, and you finally see him, and y'all give each other a hug. It's kind of that. It's that feeling like, oh, I recognize this, and then, oh, they must be here, and I'd be looking up, and then boom, It's been a while since I've had a sighting, but 2007 was crazy for me. Totally wackadoo. It was like back to back. It was, I don't know, that was a big year for me when it came to UFOs. But now I just listen to what other people, with the sighting reports that come in, other people's stories of what they've gone through. And I think through my experiences, kind of helps as a UFO investigator. I know what to listen and know what to hear out for, you know what I mean? Like if someone says a couple keywords, I'd be like, oh my God, that's happened to me. That's not in the MUFON journal or the MUFON manual, but through my experiences of I've had one person tell me in their case that the UFO folded upon itself. Right. And he described very similar. His object didn't look like mine, but the way he talked about how it took off makes me go, oh my God, I've seen that with my own eyes, Yeah. It's kind of, or like back then when they said little green men over and over and over, and then you're working for the government, and you're getting all these UFO reports of little green men, and then someone says they weren't green, they were gray. Then you go, that's the one that we need to talk to.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's these details that I've experienced. I think it helps. But it is what it is. I can rationalize all I want. I don't have any answers. I just had these experiences happen to me. And
so I've talked with Barry throughout the year. And I want to ask you the same. Have you seen a rise or a fall in 2020 with the whole pandemic going on? Have you seen an increase in cases?
No, I don't see an increase. Well, I've talked to my Colorado MUFON people, and I've asked that same question, and we all kind of said no, but how many? Hold on just a second. Okay, so this month, just for this month, we've sighting reports for the United States. We've had 446. That might seem like a lot, but I've seen it 800 a month.
Right.
That's true.
So I would say that it's just as normal as it has been, but I could be wrong. I think a lot of people are not working right now, and they're home, and they're probably due to this coronavirus, and they're probably really interested in the subject to kill boredom, and maybe they are catching a lot more things, but that's probably because people are looking up. But no, I think everything's kind of the same, but I could be wrong.
At the same time, do you actually think they're coming here as much? Just because, hell, from the movies, we know that most of them can't withstand the common cold.
Right.
Yeah. No, my theory, and this is not MUFON, it's not me speaking for MUFON, this is my gut or educated guess, is that they're here, they've been here, and they're just masters of disguises. Because you can think about it, if they're traveling very far away, and it takes really long for them to get here, then we probably wouldn't have that many UFO sightings. But if they can hop from point A to point B, just like you dial in a cell phone number and you can talk to someone in New York or whatever, that quick, and they're here, then that might explain it. But there's sightings every day. They're up there all the time, whether they're camouflaged or not. People are reporting every day. So are they coming here? Are they parked outside our atmosphere? You can go through all that. I think they've been here, and we're just becoming aware. But I think the moon, I think there's a lot of strange things going on with the moon. I think our whole solar system has a lot of mysteries. It might not just be that there's life far away, way out there. I think we could be surrounded by it, just like you are here on Earth. You can walk outside, go to your front yard, take your finger and dig in the grass and find something moving in there. We're surrounded by life here on this planet, and I would think as above, so below, there's probably an ocean of life up there. But maybe some of these beings live here. Maybe they live in the water. Maybe they live on the backside of the moon. Maybe they live in another dimension. So maybe they can have a massive UFO above in the sky, and an airplane's about to crash into it, but it's in another dimension, so it just goes right through it. But they're able to observe us. Those are all theories. I don't But I think that, yeah, you probably got a lot coming here, or maybe not. A lot of these things I think are ours. Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, new high-tech toys.
Right.
And so it's kind of, for me, I've been in a lot of arguments with UFO people about this, the CNN push with the UFO, the Tic Tac UFO. I think it might be one of ours, but I don't have no proof, but it's just the way the story goes, where he was on a training mission, he wasn't armed, and then they went to real world. Why didn't they turn him around and arm him? So he's going out there with no ammunition, and whatever this drone can do, it can go water, air, and space. And I wouldn't be surprised that we have things like that. And maybe they might want to test their new high tech with a pilot that doesn't have the need to know it, hasn't been briefed, and see how he reacts to it. I'm willing to go that way until a grainy video isn't going to prove anything to me. And the intelligence community has lied to us so many times just because you got a CIA guys coming out and saying, "Hey, guess what? This stuff's dude. I don't care. I've already been past that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're going to throw a crappy UFO video like that on scene, I know they got better stuff than that, and they're not showing it. So I don't follow their narrative. I think that, me personally, I would bet money on it. Not my last paycheck, but I bet you that's one of ours. But I could be wrong. That's the way I feel about it. And so when we talk about UFOs, it's a whole range of things. Unidentified flying objects could be ours, could be a phenomenon that we don't know about, or it could be a nuts and bolt craft from somewhere else. And it all varies. But we do have strange things happening on a daily basis, and nothing's changed. And MUFON has been doing Project Blue Book since 1969. We're doing the exact same thing that they were doing. Do I think this is good? Yes, I do, because we have a database that we can compile all these reports in for UFO research. So I think that's a good thing. But is it going to help us solve the mystery? If we can find patterns and stuff. But really, we need to get a hold of the nuts and bolts. We need to hold it in our hands. We need to look at this stuff. And I'm hoping we'll get that opportunity in the future. And just stay healthy. That's just my 2 cents, though.
Absolutely. No,
True. I agree.
Yeah, this show is in full agreement with you.
Yeah.
That's what we talk about on this show all the time. So we only have you for the next 30 minutes, and I know you got to go, so I want to jump into Bigelow. So what was your experience working with BAASS?
Sure. Well, my first...
an explanation quick for those that don't know what BAASS is.
Oh, yeah, BAASS. That's a long acronym. I don't even think it's around... Actually, as of today, it's called Bigelow Aerospace. But during 2008, BAASS, the acronym was BAASS, and that stood for Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies. And it was a section inside Bigelow Aerospace that was investigating UFOs. They had their scientists, they had their team, but they also were funding us to be boots on the ground. And we would go out and do our MUFON cases, and then we would share that case with Bigelow. So basically, he's paying us for information. That project was a little shy of a year. I don't remember when it canceled out. I only did 2 cases for the SIP. One was really awesome. The other one, But I was hoping that I would be able to make a career out of this. I don't know. That you can't just sit around for months waiting on another hot case to come in. Yes, we get cases every day, but most of them are just lights in the sky, zigzagging, taking off. What they were paying for is what I'll tell you. One of the cases that I did, which is pretty awesome, and that should be. This is a good way to end the show. So when I got assigned that case, when I got that USArmy.gov email or .mil email, I called the witness, and they were furious, and they did not want to didn't want MUFON to come around. But they submitted a report to MUFON. And before the guy hung up on me, I got him to, hold on just a second, explain to me why. And he told me, he said that Bigelow scientist, they filled out a UFO report. And as soon as they did, not even 8 hours later, Bigelow scientists were ringing his doorbells. And they were pissed off because they contacted MUFON and they didn't contact this Bigelow company. Right. And they saw it as that this was the government coming. And they were super highly paranoid and super pissed about it. And so when I somehow got them to say, well, I'm MUFON, and, you know, I'd love to talk to you about this, yada, yada. And we set up an appointment for 2 weeks. And so I drove, it was in Houston. I drove to Houston, and I showed up at their house at noon, the way we had it scheduled. And I knocked on the door, and nobody answered. And I saw a next-door neighbor out there watering our yard, and I acted like I'm going to give – they want to be anonymous, so I'll just say just 2 guys. Anyway, so I said, hey, I'm friends with them. I was supposed to come visit. Have you seen them? They told me – and she told me I didn't tell her I was an investigator. I just said I was friends with them. And she goes, yeah, I just talked to them 5 minutes ago. They're in their house. And then I realized, yeah, they know I'm here. And they're not answering the door. So I drove all the way out there, and I'm not going to leave right away. So I went across the street to this little restaurant area, and I was sitting outside, and I said, I'm just going to sit here for about an hour, and then I'll try to text them. If they don't hit me back, and then I'm just going to get back in the car and go back. And then I finally got a call back from them, because I guess they looked out their window and saw I wasn't leaving. And the first thing he said to me, how long is this going to take? And I said, it could take 10, 15 minutes. And he goes, well, I don't want you coming to the house. And I was like, that's fine. We can meet in a public place. And how about right across the street or whatever? And he goes, that'll be good. So when they show up, they were really highly paranoid. The other guy was looking over his shoulder the whole time, making sure some white van doesn't pull up and kidnap them. I'm pretty sure that's what was going on in their mind. Right. And he sat down with me, and he drilled me for, I'd say, for 10 minutes, asking me, why is this, what I just told you, why'd they show up and all this. And basically, like a pissed off customer, wanted to tell me to go away. And I broke the ice with him and said, look, man, I'm not a government employee. I don't work for Uncle Sam. I play video games. I do this, I do that, and just told him. And it seemed like once I told him that, he relaxed. And I said, listen, I get paid to come up here to write up a report. I'm a volunteer. Whether you guys help me or not, I still get paid. But I don't care about that. What I care about is hearing about y'all's story. I have a passion for this. And just tell me what happened. And I got them to trust me. And they opened up and told me what happened. So these 2 guys rented a car. And they drove to the Grand Canyon. They were partners. And they worked, I believe he worked at a clothing, they owned a clothing store. Okay. So anyway, they were coming back from their trip, and one of the passenger was an amateur photographer. And while they were driving through the desert, I think somewhere in Texas, they saw this groundhog sticking up out of the ground, like in the middle of the road. And they pulled off the side of the road because he wanted to get pictures of this. So when he got out, he started taking pictures of this cute groundhog, and he started to realize there was hundreds of them. They were all out there, and they were all looking at him. And he started taking pictures, and he started kind of feeling a little weird. Both of them did. Like they need to get out of there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So they both got in their cars, and they started driving, and David Bowie was playing on the radio. I remember all these details. And they were listening to David Bowie. So from 1 minute to 1 mile after leaving the groundhogs is when the incident happened. They said this big saucer came over the top of their car. When you looked up, it looked like the bottom of a plate, like a dinner plate. Mm-hmm. And he was terrified, so he accelerated to go the vehicle's top speed, and this thing was keeping up with them. And they were trying to outrun it on the highway. Well, during this time, while they're both freaking out, the passenger looks out the window into the desert, and he sees this being or this person running through the field naked. It was like a bright, like white skin, and he said his head was like an upside-down teardrop. And it was big, and it was running diagonal, coming at an angle towards the car. So they're going about 180 to 100 miles an hour, and this thing's keeping up with them, coming like at a trajectory course where it's about to meet up with them. So he tells the driver, this thing over here is coming up towards us. It's running towards us. We need to outrun it. And he's looking, and by the time it caught up to him, there was a big, loud bang, and then everything inside the car got white. Now, both of them described it kind of differently. One described it as it was like sticking your head inside a Kleenex box. The other guy said it was like sticking your head inside a mayonnaise jar. There was no sound, and they felt it like they were being lifted up. Okay? The next thing they remember, which they didn't remember any of this, they were back on the road, and they were driving, and they were laughing, and they were having a good time. They just kind of felt really good, you know. And, you know, they weren't scared or anything. And one of the passenger goes, wait, hold on a second. You know, we got to turn this car in. Didn't we hit somebody or hit something? Didn't we hit something? And he goes, no, we didn't hit nothing. He goes, no, wait a second. We did hit something. And the driver's like, no, that's BS. So let's just pull off side of the road and check before we, you know. So they pulled off side of the road and they walked around. They looked at their car. There was no dents. But while they were walking around looking in their car, all their memories came back. Everything. The whole incident. And they were terrified. And they did realize that they should have been home an hour early. So they had missing time. So that's basically it. Bigelow wanted the vehicle. They wanted to buy the vehicle off of them, and I don't know if they were going to send it to Los Alamos or where they were going to send it at. I heard Chuck Malden was telling me something about where that case went. And Chuck's not with us anymore, but he was our scientific advisor during that time. But anyway, that car was through Enterprise. So I'm pretty sure when I did the case, I left all that information in there. If they wanted to go grab that vehicle, they would know where to go. And that's pretty interesting. I mean, I don't get very many cases like that, but that was my first Star Team case. And I truly believe that these guys are telling the truth, even though the story is crazy. These guys genuinely had a tremendous amount of fear. I think this just changed their whole life. I don't think they'll ever be the same. And they wanted a lot of answers to questions that I could not answer, you know, and it is what it is. But whatever it was serious enough that the Bigelow scientists were there, Johnny on the spot, once they filled that UFO report out.
Yeah, you know, and one of the things that used to happen back then, the CMS before the SIP program came in and the Star Team came in, we never asked for GPS. And one of the things that Bigelow demanded on all of the cases is that it had to have a GPS coordinates. You had to give longitude and latitude of where this was. And that was the key formulation. And that's one of the things even when I was doing cases, every once in a while I'd come across BAASS investigators near or on it, or heard that they were coming or had come to actually talk to an investigator or be on their property. They were heavily, you know, they were armed when they came. You know, I don't know if you ever heard that before, Jeremy.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I didn't know about the arm part, but I did figure I wasn't that. I knew that after the U.S. Army email, I kind of paid attention, and when we went to the longitude and latitude, I started realizing they need this for satellite, so they can.
Right.
So you fill out a UFO report. You got the address, whatever. You got GPS coordinates for longitude and latitude. They could go back in time, just like a CCTV camera, and rewind it to that event and see. Oh my God, there really is something here. And then boom, they send their team out there.
Right.
That's how I figured. That's how I figured. Not just Bigelow, but not the Men in Black guys, but the people in the intelligence community that have their own special crash retrieval operational teams. They're using that kind of tech. We got Google Maps and it's old pictures, you know, from 6 months ago. But I know that they can get that in real time. I mean, if you really want to know if O.J. Simpson really killed his wife, just rewind that back and follow where he went that night. You know,
exactly. Yeah.
Well, do you think Bigelow Aerospace? You think their basic mission was technology retrieval more than information gathering?
From what Mr. Bigelow said, and I met Mr. Bigelow, he said that the information that was valuable to him is if somebody got on board the craft and was able to look at the cockpit. Just them being in there and seeing the cockpit, they thought the information was very valuable if they could draw, you know, the levers or buttons or however it looked. That was valuable information that they were willing to pay for. I've heard that through him himself. There might be other things, but
yeah, that's true. And also symbols and all that other stuff. If anybody saw symbols and so forth like that, they were very interested in the symbols also. You know, and what did you think after 97 when Lou Alzanzo came out and started talking about this, and then Harry Reid talking about Bigelow? Did that give you a thrill?
Well, it definitely, I think I was already on top of it. I just didn't have a name to the face.
Yeah.
But now that I know Harry Reid was the one that it starts to make sense. But, you know, 2008, it's not really that long ago, but I think after the STAR team was over with and years go by, I've always was wondering about that USArmy.gov email, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when this hit, I was like, well, maybe I can tell people about this now. But the reason why I didn't tell nobody is not because I'm a patriot or keep your mouth shut about that kind of stuff. It was because I didn't want that guy to get in trouble. He was such a nice guy. And I knew if I blabbed my mouth about that, he'd probably lose his rank or something. And
yeah,
just leave it alone. He screwed up, you know, whatever. Yeah. I'm 100% positive I wasn't supposed to get that email.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no,
but yeah, it give me a small thrill. But I kind of have, I'm not trying to bash Louis or any of these people, but I'm not buying the narrative. I'm sorry. I got my own. The intelligence community has lied to us for a long time, so who cares, right? Now they're finally going to tell us the truth. I think it's being spun in a way for their advantage, and it's just like, quit teasing us, show us the evidence, or move along, you know. And most of the time, they don't really got anything as far as I'm concerned. Just their titles and that they were there and that I worked for the secret program. Who cares, dude? Who cares?
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about it.
I gotta agree with you, and I kind of feel like every time I watch the show that they had on History Channel or anything else, they're always talking about the alien threat, and it always sends me back to 2003 with Carolyn Roslin going, and the last card is the alien threat. And I keep on going, wow. You know.
Yeah, roll out Project Blue Beam and let's have a fun light show. And let's have a little false flag, kill a couple of humans, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not falling for the narrative, and if anything like that ever happens, I'll probably be very vocal on Facebook trying to calm people down. Just telling everybody it's a whole bunch of horse manure. Don't fall for it, you know. But if they were hostile, we wouldn't be here. Okay, that's just the way I feel about it. I think what's really going on in the world, we're not really educated when it comes to. Well, we would, but as for the normies out there, we think of U.S. government, and that's as high as it goes. But we don't think about cartels and cabals and families that run this stuff. So a lot of this stuff that's top secret, that's been blacked out, is usually stuff to cover up their crimes that they've done. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it's privately owned. So as far as I'm concerned, I think if you want... my wish is to get these evil people out of the way so we can roll out that Black Bolt and roll out the TR-3B and all these awesome technologies that they have suppressed from us so they can make a buck, okay? And then it would be beneficial for humanity. I really believe that we do have replicators. I do believe we have med beds. Say goodbye to the pharmaceutical companies once you roll those suckers out. Right. And starvation, that's over with once you have replicators. And then the TR-3B, that doesn't run on gasoline, so say goodbye to the oil companies. I wish there was a change to where we could. It's supposed to be the Jetsons now, and we're not there yet. We don't have flying cars. Well, we do, but I think we need to spiritually grow up as a race before we start going out there. I just kind of think we got a little bit more growing up to do, but. Let's say, for instance, that there's this technology, that this energy that could be available, it's free to everyone, 0 point or whatever you want to call it, right? And we don't need to run a meter on it, and you don't have to pay your electric bill ever again, and it's free. Well, what if you got this one crazy kid in a garage that makes a bomb out of that, and it's enough to blow up the whole planet or the solar system? I mean, so I can understand slapping a top secret thing on that and saying we can't give this to the public, You know, we can't control it. We can't contain it. I totally get that. But when it comes to, let's save all our UFO reproduction vehicles, alien production vehicles for our false flag operation that we have planned in the near future for our New World Order BS. Yeah, I'm giving you the middle finger. I'm sick of this. Let's just. I think we're not stupid. I don't think we need to get the answers from them. And what really pisses me off about Luis, that whole clique, is that MUFON is the one that's been doing all the hard work. These guys just pop up, and then they're just spouting things off. And Tom DeLone doesn't do his research. A lot of those videos up there are garbage, or I saw them years ago. And they get all the publicity. It's misleading. I see right through it. Anyway, it's a nasty taste in my mouth. That's just my opinion.
And you're right 100%. I agree with you 100%. You know, one of the coolest things you said tonight that I really like is when you talked about consciousness. And I think that's what it's all about, because these things do deal with our consciousness, and they're trying to raise the consciousness. If we all could raise our consciousness and we all get to the point where all this crap has gone away, then I think that we're all in a different way. And it has a lot to do with the consciousness. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree, and I would say Gene Roddenberry, everybody knows him from the creator of Star Trek. He said that he believes, and I totally agree with him, that we are in our infancy stages. We're children, and we haven't quite grown up yet. But when we do grow up and we get out there amongst the stars, we're going to be something very special. Yes. And I think that's where we're going. At least I'm hopeful.
I agree.
And consciousness does play a big role, especially in my own personal experiences. I gave y'all a couple examples today about the feeling, but there's been times where I've looked at the object and go, if you are who I think you are, move to the left to verify, and it would move to the left.
Yeah, exactly. And we've had that same experiences, and that's one of the things that you have a communication with them. And it's almost like it is a living entity in itself.
Yes, like it's alive.
Absolutely. Exactly. Right, exactly.
Like a craft is alive. Or what? I don't, like I said, I've never seen a UFO land and a being get out of it. But that March the 20th, 1996 sighting, if it was the 1800s or 1700s, I would say it was an angel. It would, because it was transparent. I didn't see no nuts and bolts. It seemed very dimensional. I don't know what the word is. So I can understand everybody's got a different point of view. But to me, even to this day, and I still haven't changed my mind, I think there's something inside that thing, flying that thing around. But I've also had other UFO sightings where I felt that UFO is the one that's communicating, not anything inside it. And it's a feeling I get, so it makes me think that the craft was alive.
David Adair states that when the power plant that he was shown, that power plant itself, I think he said it was roughly the size of a Greyhound bus, was conscious. That it had a consciousness that he was communicating with. That it was bioreactive, and that he felt like there was a connection there with the consciousness.
I agree, and I also would like to add that if you see them, they see you, and it has something to do with that consciousness.
That's true.
So even if you're hiding in the woods or you're going to run inside your house to get away from them, they still see you. Yeah. So just once you make eye contact with me and you verify in your head, what's that? They've already got pinged saying, oh, someone sees us, or they're allowing you to see.
They're allowing you to see. I think that's the biggest part about the consciousness, and they continue to do that through your life at times, because that's why you'll have more sightings than most people do. Once you have given, let's call it a gift, if you will. Some people call it a curse. We've dealt with a lot of abductees. In the case that you were just talking about, the two guys who have the missing time and everything, oh my God, the trauma that they go through, it actually causes PTSD, and we all know that. And, because it changes your life forever. Everything that you were taught, everything that you have believed in your life before that has been totally erased, and now you're like going, oh my gosh, there is something out there.
Well, when I was 16, when I was at military school, I was like, for months, I was like, I'm going to go down to South Powder Island. I'm going to get a girlfriend, and I'd be planning it, fantasizing about it, and what CDs I was going to bring for the road trip. And then, boom, I had this UFO sighting. I didn't care about that ever again. I didn't care about that. I didn't care about the normal life things. I was hyper focused on this subject, and still am today. Totally changed my life.
Yeah, same with my experiences, and mine started at a very early age, at 9 years old, and that's continued for a long time. And I understand you 100%. It's just wonderful to hear you talk about it and bring up that subject. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for not picking on me. My God, because I figured this.
Not on this show. You got a scientist. You've got somebody who's experienced Bigfoot. You've got a scientist who's experienced ghosts and UFOs. So this is a friendly crowd, to say the least.
Oh, and Barry and I both have 30 years in this field, so you're in good company. I bet we only have like 10 minutes left with you now. I want to hit Skinwalker Ranch. Do you know why? What did Bigelow gain from Skinwalker Ranch, and why did he sell it? Do you have any idea?
Well, I haven't followed it as much as a lot of other people have, but a few things I've gathered from it was Robert Bigelow stated that they do have some information about some things, and he wasn't ready to disclose just yet, and that kind of bothered me a little bit. Why don't you tell us what you've learned? Why are you concealing it? Unless it's national security reasons. I've heard that they were testing weapons out there. I've heard every type of rumor you can think of, and I just I'm disenchanted until I get to see until some eyewitnesses come forward, those Delta Force guys or whoever, the Bigelow guys, the guys that were armed, they come forward without their face blacked out, and really talk. I think weird things happen there. Maybe it died off, and they were just wasting their money, and that's why he sold it to someone else. I have no idea. I really don't know. You're asking. That's a great question, and I really shouldn't answer it because I haven't really done a lot of research on it. I just kind of we'll hear about it when we hear about it.
But that's what irritates me because I see it. You have different. I don't like using the word portal too often, but you have certain points on the planet that are known for high activity, like Skinwalker.
And his is lined up there. Yeah,
they don't. It doesn't go away. It just doesn't. So that baffles me that all of a sudden they say, "Oh, it doesn't. It's not happening anymore. I'm going to sell it." Look at Bermuda Triangle. Look at there's still disappearances at Bermuda Triangle. Skinwalker Ranch.
Was there anything going on with his business when he sold it?
I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like he went from being an apex leader in the field to now the doors are shut and he's gone. Like, did he get too close?
Packed up quick.
Yeah, it's like he must have found answers or something. I mean, we can speculate all day, but maybe he just made bad business decisions.
Yeah.
I would say that
honestly,
what we do know.
Seen some of his business decisions, though. Like, there was a bunch of stuff about blow up hotels and like bingo in space. Okay, there were some interesting business decisions there.
Well, he had those deflatable modules. I think it was called Genesis 1.
Yeah.
Genesis 2.
Correct.
And he shot those up in space, and they, instead of an astronaut working on the space station on the outside putting it together, this thing was like a lifeboat, and it just it inflated, and everything was all intact. But there was nobody in there, but he had cameras. He had a couple of things floating around in there, and I know that he had cameras on the outside catching probably these fast walkers or catching other UFOs. Yeah. But I would say if we go back to the ranch, the things that I find interesting is not until Bigelow comes out and says what really happened there. It's before. It's the ranchers that were there with those cattle disappearing.
Right.
And all that I believe, because you got a face to the name. People are coming out and you can, what I'm talking about. So the story before it starts, and then when Bigelow got in, all I hear, to me, I just see it as all rumors until we get the goods. I don't mind being patient.
George Knapp did a pretty good expose about his experiences. He went out there pre-Bigelow, and that was...
What was that? It was him and that Jeremy guy, right? Jeremy Corbin
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. But the ones, for me, that piqued my interest is the cases that happened before Bigelow got in there.
Right, exactly.
The history of
there was a lot of, and what the Native Americans say about that area.
Oh, that big wolf, man! That
right.
Shooting that dude.
Yeah. You know the whole deal that what we're seeing right now. What I believe, and this is my opinion, is that we're seeing a changing of the guard because Bigelow is going out. All of a sudden, he was doing with NASA. He was the person that, look, if you had an experience, if you were a pilot, you were instructed to call Robert Bigelow to tell him about your experiences by the United States government. Mm-hmm. And then you also, now, who do we have? We have Elon Musk. And we have Starlink. We have all this other stuff. And what do we have? We have the same situation. He is dealing with NASA. He's doing all that. So it's a changing of the guard. All that information is being done in a different way. I think it's something we need to look at.
The thing that I would look at, too, is that when he was closing, when he was starting to get less and less staff and less people, Blue Origin started coming in. And I think founded in 2011 by, Amazon guy, Bezos. Yes.
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, that just started up, and it's kind of picking up where Bigelow left off, as far as his ideas and what he's working on with Elon Musk.
Like they're trying to change the narrative. And
so
the only
let's
way to do that
change
was
the
to
guy, and we'll pull these two in now. Yeah.
Change the team and change the narrative.
So is Elon Musk the new Bigelow?
No. That guy's about to disappear.
I think Bezos is.
Literally.
I agree, but who's taking over for Bigelow?
I got a question about Musk.
Have y'all ever hear the rumor that Bigelow, someone got killed out there?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you've heard of that.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered if that is true. Was it a big mess up on Bigelow's side, or was there something hostile there, and maybe that's why they had to leave? I don't know, but I heard one of his men got killed out there. This is a rumor, but I was wondering if anybody else heard anything like that.
I definitely did hear that rumor, and that would be one of the ideas and it's also the rumor that is the reason why he did sell and close off the property. But now property is re-owned, and it is just as secure as it was beforehand.
Well,
even though the TV show,
even though messing with something like a skinwalker without actually believing in that particular mythology, and you find out it's true.
That owner's going to be dead.
Yeah.
And from just who we have here on this panel and all the stuff we deal with, is that skinwalkers do exist.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I've talked to the Native American. Forgot what they were. They're police officers. They're famous.
Yeah, the Navajo.
The Navajo guys.
Navajo own that area, I believe.
They've come and give presentations here at the Colorado MUFON. Yes. And presented some of their cases, and my jaw was gaping
on the floor
whole freaking time. So I go in skeptical, going as a bunch of and I walk out going, "Mother of God, dude, what is going on?"
Right?
What is going on? So yes, I believe in their sincerity. I believe they're telling the truth, and actually in their law, that's a crime. That's like right up there in murder, being a skinwalker.
Oh yeah, it is.
Well, you have to commit a murder very seriously.
Right, exactly. It is a murder
to become a sacrifice a human being to become a skinwalker.
Yeah,
it's very dark magic.
Yeah, and you're kicked out of the tribe.
Yes, you are banished from the tribe.
And then they can't actually kill one either. they can't do anything about it. He can do anything he wants then.
Right. How did they put that? He's already dead to the tribe, so therefore they can't kill something that's already dead.
So Marco wants to know, and you could probably put some more clear. If I remember right, Bigelow wasn't into the UFO field until his son died. Was that correct? His son was actually heavily into UFOs, if I remember right. And his son died, and Bigelow kind of stepped in and took that over because, well, he used that as a means to connect with his son after he had died. Is that correct?
I didn't know about that, but I thought that, and I could be wrong, but I thought Mr. Bigelow had a sighting, and he had some kind of paranormal thing happen to him in his past, and that's why he has a passion for UFOs. But I didn't know about his son. That's new news to me. Sorry.
Yeah, and I have to say I didn't know about his son either. I don't know if that's a rumor or not. But right. I've heard the same thing that Jeremy's heard. Okay. That it's the exact same thing that he had experienced.
Okay, so we're coming down to the last few minutes here. Jeremy, do you have a website or anything for what you do?
No, just I would just say the MUFON website. But I am on Facebook, but I'm not on. I think I'm on Twitter too, but I'm not a really social, what's the word? I'm not on it. I might read the newsfeed, but I hardly ever post. But if someone wants to reach out to me, the best way is just get on Facebook, Jeremy Ray. You can even put MUFON in the search and it'll pop right up, and just send me a private message and we'll start from there. I don't have a website, no sir.
Okay. Excellent, excellent show. We'll definitely have you back on, and I believe you're going to be on Roundtable with us next week.
I will. Let me see what I think I'm open for next week. But I'll touch base with you to verify, Eric.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jeremy.
No, it was lovely talking to everybody. I enjoyed this. This was fantastic. Thank you for bringing me on.
Oh, it was a great pleasure.
We definitely need to have a part 2 with you, because I know there's a lot more we can talk about.
It's nice to have somebody articulate in the field and that has that much experience and can shed some light on it.
Absolutely.
I think I just told you. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just think I told you all the good stuff. I mean, all the stuff that's happened. Everything else that's happening between me and my life has been strange, but nothing as big as those 2 UFO sightings that I've had. But I've had practice, let's just say, to where I know there's a consciousness aspect to this. Plenty of practice.
Absolutely.
So when we come back, we will talk about the creature battle for the week and introduce the coming up week's creature battle.
Absolutely.
We got a few other things we can talk about.
Oh, absolutely. And this last hour, we'll be talking with Barry. Thank you for coming on, Jeremy. And
thank you, sir.
2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, Godspeed, everybody. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the last 2 hours with Jeremy Ryan. Here is Hell Within from Crypt Amnesia.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Now with your host, Eric Cooper.
And welcome back to S4. Tonight we had Jeremy Ray, we have Barry Gaunt, Kentucky MUFON, with us for the last hour. But the moment you've all been waiting for, Kayla
Creature battles. Yeah.
with the creature battle.
Alright, so in this week's Creature versus Creature, we had the Griffin versus the Harpy. So what do you guys think? Who would win?
What are the toughest one?
Harpy, because they're human based and they'd have more. They could form a strategy, and harpies never travel alone. They're usually in a flock, so I think they could overwhelm the Griffin.
What bothered me about the Harpy, though, is I don't know anything about them, but from the photo that Kayla had on there, they don't have hands. They have wings.
They have wings, but they have claws for hands.
They have talons.
They have talons.
It's not a single talon?
No,
they're full out talons,
They
just like
actually-
the Griffin, but smaller.
Yep. Joe's right there with me. It's got to be the Griffin.
Oh, man, Harpy. It's the Harpy all the way.
The
okay?
Harpies.
Oh, no.
Hey, we're the minority, Joe.
No. Let me explain.
Hey, no, I'm going with the Griffin too, because man, that's if depending on which version you're taking, mythical magical creature, lion based over a human based. I mean, come on now. I mean,
with
it's
the brain of a bird versus the brain of a human.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know what?
Big deal.
And come on, you ever seen an angry woman with talons and wings? No.
Have you seen the human race lately?
Yeah. That's exactly. I mean,
gotta be a lion.
You're comparing. I mean, I'd rather have an eagle than I would a human at some points as a friend.
I'll give you that one. All right, so for the votes, the Griffin has definitely taken that creature battle.
I knew it. I should have put money on it.
Kayla only voted for the Harpy because she felt sorry for it.
Hey now, somebody's got to vote for the Harpy. Okay, so next week's creature battles, and you can go on and you can vote for which creature you think would win today. We have, what do we have?
The Chupacabra
versus
werewolf.
All right.
But here's the thing, okay?
Chupacabra.
Now with these two, I associate them with their areas of living.
Their areas of origin.
Yes.
Yeah, the Chupacabra is like Texas, Puerto Rico,
that's
Mexico.
Wine versus tequila. Tequila wins. I
say Chupacabra all the way.
Oh yeah, I'm voting for Chupacabra. Yep.
Well,
Tony!
Come on, Tony!
Oh, Joe!
Come on, Joe! They say werewolf.
Okay. So
no. Chupacabra, bloodsucker. Come on.
I gotta say,
Says
it depends on what phase the moon is in. Okay, because if you go with the actual werewolf story of them only changing on a full moon, then Chupacabra has it hands down. Just saying.
Now, if you went with wolvers, it could be a little different.
Right.
Well,
Plus, the werewolf is essentially a dog. He's going to stop for 5 seconds to lick himself.
No, here's what I see. I see them facing off, and all of a sudden, the poor werewolf turns back into a human, and Chupacabra tears him up.
Yeah, it's over.
There you go.
Oh, jeez. So,
now,
your votes
it also depends if you're talking about the Puerto Rican Chupacabra versus the Texas Chupacabra.
Okay, we are talking the Puerto Rican Chupacabra.
Oh, there we go.
Not the
mange.
So Puerto Rico, that's still like my theory still runs there because that's rum. Rum beats wine. For a big stick and a big stick, a pointy stick.
Oh no! PBR thinks Grizzly would beat a Bigfoot. Hell no. Bigfoot
Come on.
No.
Grizzly taking on a Bigfoot?
No.
I think the Bigfoot would snap the Grizzly. And I don't know though.
I think both of them would be a little bit screwed up by the end of that battle.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a hands down. That would probably
unless it's like portal jumping Bigfoot, and we go with that. then it's just going to portal jump behind it and snap its neck.
Your typical adult Bigfoot's about 12 foot tall, between 10 and 12. The 7 foot are usually your teeny bopper, younger males.
Okay, have you ever seen a shaved bear? Just throwing this out.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a
I've
shaved
seen
bear?
one with sarcoptic manes that lost its hair. They're creepy.
They are terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay? That is a thing of nightmares. No joke. If you haven't seen a shaved bear, like, Google it and look at it.
I did kind of picture that, though, a little bit, and then all of a sudden the grizzly did a bear hug. And the Bigfoot was a little confused at first, but there was feelings there.
Well, look at the claws on a grizzly bear and the teeth.
That's true.
A good swipe. I mean, one of the things they think, one of the reasons that these grizzly bears go on rampages is when they fight each other, they bite each other's heads and they break teeth. Okay, so you've got this huge carnivore with horrible dental hygiene and a mouthful of rotten teeth, and as somebody who suffers from bad teeth, a toothache will drag. Can you imagine how a mouthful of toothache? You're going to kill anything that's in your path.
Right.
So, get online. You can check us out on Facebook, either on the Forest Moon Paranormal, or you can check us out on the S-4 page, or you can check us out on
the website
S-4radio.com. And you can vote for which creature you think is going to win this week's creature battle.
Absolutely.
I'm still in shock because of what Carlos said about the shaved bear. I mean, and some of the people that I know have seen that before. So and they don't live very long. I mean, they've suffered.
Oh yeah, and we have to say, so we are not condoning you to go out and shave a bear. That's at your own risk. S-4 does not.
I am. No.
Yeah.
Screw that. I am. You go out, you shave that bear, but you make sure there's video. I want to see that.
Yeah, what's that?
Let's not.
Where's this Eskimo I'm supposed to skin?
And of course, that means that my nickname Bear, that's going to give me problems for the next few weeks.
All right, everybody. Barry lives in Kentucky. And he's
Go save Bear.
So how's Kentucky doing, Barry?
Kentucky's doing great. Jeremy was talking about the cases and everything else, and normally July is a very hot month because of the 4th of July. We get a lot of cases in. I think people are becoming more aware of what they're seeing and taking a little bit more look at it. But, I got to tell you, in the last 2 days, Kentucky has had 5 cases come through. And, so right now we're popping. And then, of course, I talked about the Bigfoot outside the person's house, but gave him a thrill because it was, I've been to this person's house before, and it's probably about 50 feet into the woods, and he was to the woods from his home. And then he was saying it was right there, right down by his house, just beaten on a tree. And I haven't talked to him yet because he was supposed to walk out, and I've been busy like you guys. I've been on a bunch of investigations this week, and last time we were at Octagon Hall until dang late. We had ESP there, and we had Rosella C. Rao came down, and it was just a great time. And yeah. Whew.
Hey, Barry,
Sir.
How much activity do you get reported around the Land Between the Lakes area?
Land Between the Lakes is a good area, especially for Dogman, and Bigfoot also. There's been, in fact, on Into the Fire, we had a team that really goes into Dogman, and due to the virus now, they're supposed to be doing some stuff, and we were trying to get together with them to go on a expedition and do a little bit of thing out there. Of course, there's the deal with death of 2 people out in Kentucky in that area that supposedly is related to a Dogman incident.
Well, I always wondered about that because I did when I was at Austin Peay State, I did a lot of research out there, and I used to basically live out there when I wasn't working, and I never came across anything. And I was doing the kind of camping where you just hike in. You know, you can do that kind of camping there, wilderness camping. You can park your car on the trace and wander around. And I never saw or heard anything but whippoorwills. And to hear this whole, this whole Dogman Bigfoot, it's like, damn, and I was right out there all the time.
Yeah,
never encountered anything.
What years were you out here?
I was there, I graduated in 96. I worked through the Department of Biology as a researcher from about 93 till I graduated in 96. And then after I graduated, I worked a 410 shift in Springfield, and I would leave from the parking lot at the hospital and run straight up the road to Land Between the Lakes and spend my time off out there. So it was like it was my second home. And Panther Bay, I would go in that area. I would actually I had a little four-wheel drive Bronco too, and I'd get into places that you had to have ground clearance and four-wheel drive to get to, and just spend nights out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I've had some weird experiences out there. I was on a UFO case one time, and I was coming back through the Parkway out that way, and I actually go, "Why is everybody stopping?" And and the next thing I know, we see this Bigfoot actually take off and up over the hill and into the woods. So, me, all of a sudden, and everybody speeds up and takes off, and then I pull off, and I decide, well, I'm jumping out of the car to see what's going on. And I got about 10 feet, and all of a sudden, all my interest just went away. It was like going, you go another 2 steps, and you're not going to live to get back in your car. And I just turned around.
You think that might be, I've heard that they think Bigfoot might be able to use infrasound as a...
Exactly. Yes.
I just really, with all the turkey hunters that go, turkey season, there must be 1,000 people out there. It just seems like there would be more eyewitness accounts just because that area is so, during certain seasons, that, people get into the nooks and crannies of that area.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's that area is wild and weird, and you got water and everything else. Funny, you do get a few UFO reports out there, and a lot of times when you're dealing with Bigfoot and UFOs, you're also getting, you also get a few UFO reports that relate to it. Same thing in the county that this gentleman has UFO reports around Wolf County and all that area are legendary. There's been a lot of them out that way. We've got military things going on. We've got, and you go a little bit farther, you got Paintsville, you got, right there. Oh yeah. Well, that's one of the things, by where you were at in Clarksville. I mean, there's Fort Campbell. And we have 2 of the largest military bases in here because we've got Fort Knox up by E-Town, and we've got the Fort Campbell. Of course, that's for the 160. What is it? The 167th SOAR is the Night Stalkers. 160th SOAR. Yeah, the 160th SOAR is, and it's just and death by night. So
I've always been surprised that there's not more reporting around the Mammoth Cave State, that whole Mammoth Cave State Park area. It's huge. And you would think you would have a lot of sightings.
We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the lake is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? It actually... Yeah, and yes, the rake. There are so many sightings in Kentucky. We talk about the 37th parallel, And, Mammoth Cave is on the 37th parallel, and where I'm at right now is about 36.6. And, when you go to degree above it, you're still going to have outrageous phenomena. And, golly, we do here. So
it's like where I used to live in down the road, Walnut Cove. There's a big electric plant, Duke Energy electric plant on the lake. And there's supposedly several UFO sightings around that electrical plant.
Yes. Yeah. They're known for that. Nuclear plants, military bases. We've had some strange military base reports. They're very rare and few and far between because it's so sewed up. In fact, here, the Bowling Green Airport, we have a small commuter airport that flies in and out of here. Just recently opened up, and we have a lot of freight. But you know what? If we have anything here, and we try to get a hold of the Bowling Green Airport to ask about UFOs and satellite, not satellite data, but their radar data, we have to go through Fort Campbell because Fort Campbell runs all that. And you're always seeing refueling and everything else going on. You see a lot of black helicopters heading that way.
A good place for that is Hertford, North Carolina. Or they have a thing called Harvey Point, where I think it's a CIA training group.
Yeah.
And many a night, my father-in-law and I would be on the Perquimans River fishing, and a blacked out C-130 would fly overhead. You could hear the wind on its wings, and look up, and there was this black silhouette blanking out the stars, but you didn't hear or see any engines. It was like a stealth operation all the way.
Oh, exactly. Sounds, there is so much out here. And I, having Jeremy on tonight, listening to him and everything else, it's and he's relaying his stories and everything else. And for the people that are listening to the show, don't forget to please report your sightings of anything. Find, Forceman and Paranormal did a great job back there. If you see an S-4 radio, call them. They'll find. If you get a hold of Eric or any of you guys, they're going to be able to give you information for somebody to talk about it. We want to know about the odd sightings of cryptos. We want to know about the odd sightings of UFOs. And if we all start getting over that cynicism that, we're crazy, it's all going to get better because it's scientific data to learn more and more about it. So please report it, and then I understand why people do it. But it's always bad when I get one of those cases that is like 8 years old or 6 years old because they have dealt with it so long they didn't want to say anything, and the next thing they know I can't live with it anymore. I got to report it. I got to know.
Stigma in that area too. I was
right, exactly.
It's County while I was going to college, and
there you go.
People there do not want to talk about supernatural.
No,
right, right, exactly.
And I have to say, about 90% of the experiences people have don't get reported because of that fact.
Yeah, there's just there's a lot of peer pressure in community. You don't want to be the one that has the flying saucer. You don't want to be the Bigfoot. I think my parents owned a pretty good chunk of land in Logan County, and I think, I heard some large footsteps out in the woods behind their house several times.
Yeah, well,
something heavy tramping through the woods. So there's something in that area.
Well, I think.
Oh yeah, and to be perfectly honest with you, I live in Simpson County, which is right next door, and a lot of Simpson County was made from Logan County. All three counties were separated: Warren, Allen, and Logan. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of odd things, and you can definitely hear it in Logan County, and there are reports of it. It's getting a little bit better, but you're right. People just don't want to talk about it.
You were in the right area to have experienced the late Philip Spencer. He had the mystery of Panther Rock and the Fraser land.
Right. Exactly.
I hope I kept an old MP3 player I had, because he had that sound clip that was recorded. He called it the guy was the X farmer. He had bought a huge tract of land in Fraser County, and the sound that he recorded was chilling, absolutely chilling. It's hard to find the clip anymore, but since he's died, I don't know who took all his stuff offline, but it's hard to find Philip Spencer's X-Farmer recording. But this thing even freaked out the guy's dogs.
Oh yeah, freaked out. I mean, and there is some strange sounds. I mean, I've heard them myself in this area, and it is crazy. And other people report them also. And we're also sitting on an area where giants were found. Also, people seem to go missing. This is, if you look at 411 and David Blythe's map, you're going to see the comparison of missing people. You're not going to see part of Kentucky and Tennessee. I'll tell you that much. You're just going to see dots.
And then you get that whole Lake Malone recreational area. You get people going out there thinking, "Oh, let's get out to wilderness," and they go from city slicker, get out there and get lost.
Right, exactly.
Because there's some there's some places out there that haven't seen civilization since the Cherokee.
Right, exactly. But it's a great place to live. It's a great place to be if you're an investigator and you like to do it all. But you got to be careful. I mean, that is one of the things, and that's what we always try to tell all the newbies that are coming up and everybody that wants to. Boots on the ground investigation is one of the most dangerous fields you can really get into.
And that's between paranormal and the mundane.
Right, exactly.
Hey, Barry.
We actually got to do, through Austin P, a cave salamander survey, because we were testing out we did it at Dunbar Cave, and I didn't get to go on the full thing, but apparently they actually got to go into the Bell Witch Cave, which is privately owned, to do the cave salamander. That was weird.
I've actually, now they give they give tours in the Bell Witch Cave. I've been in the Bell Witch Cave, and it is a strange place. And I will give everybody the first heads up that please do not take any rocks from the cave. You can't believe how many they get back. And it's worse than going to Hawaii and taking something.
Or taking a picture of Robert the Haunted Doll without his permission. That's just one of the things you don't do.
Exactly. Great area, great history. When you have a president that says, "Wow, something," when Andrew Jackson went there and said, "Whoa, there's definitely something going on here."
Yeah, he was going to go down there and show it who was boss, and he ended up heading back to Nashville with his tail tucked between his legs.
Exactly.
There was something to that.
And if you know the history of Andrew Jackson, he didn't scare easy.
He did not. But I loved being, I was living right there in that area, so I was very keen on investigating. We actually found some human remains in Dunbar Cave, which is right there within Clarksville.
Yeah,
we had them at Austin P State. We had them in our vertebrate lab.
Were they those small redheads? Did they have hair still with them, or was it a larger?
No, this was just skeletal remains they had found in the cave, and we had them in a basically a plastic bin in the vertebrate lab museum.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't sure. I don't think they ever did an anthropological study to determine whether it was a Native American or an early settler, or just they kind of dropped the ball on that one.
So I am not really up on where everything exactly is in Kentucky. Are you anywhere near the Waverly Hills Sanatorium there?
Oh yeah, Waverly Hills is up about 2 hours north of me. It's outside of Louisville, and in fact, you've had guests on a lot in the past. Rosella Zero, she was there on Friday night, and then she came down to the Octagon Hall, and investigated that with us and ESP, Terry and Tracy from them yesterday, and just had a great time. And yeah, we're not very far from it at all. Also, Bobby Mackey's is right around the same area. So yeah, we have a lot of great paranormal places out here in Kentucky, and as I can tell you, that Kentucky is known as a very paranormal and odd state, and has always been known that. I mean, this is the place where it rained meat, and it rained up right by Malone Lake.
Well, I think you got a problem where you've got the European culture encroaching on what was the native culture there.
Right.
And that's kind of bad juju to start with.
Yeah, exactly. But some of the things that have been found around here and are known to be in Kentucky, Tennessee, and southern Indiana and Ohio. You've got the Adena Mounds, you've got all that stuff, several mound people, everything else, and again, we talk about giants, we talk about all that, and it's great history, it's great things. That's why, we are researchers of paranormal, but we're also researchers in history, because the more you go back into history, the more you're going to put it all together. I mean, you got to love history to be a great paranormal investigator.
I wish I had been more into the paranormal when I was in that area. I mean, if I was into it as much as I am now, I don't think I'd ever left.
Time and a place. Remember that. Time and a place.
Do you ever get much Fae activity up there? Down there? Over there?
Yeah, it's funny.
I'm sorry.
That's interesting, because a lot of people forget about the Fae.
Yeah. We do.
What many people think is spirit, or think is, orbs or alien or whatever, is actually Fae. That's just one area of the paranormal that people don't think about.
Right, and you're 100% right. And yes, we do get Fae activity around here. Elementals are all over the place. We've actually had cases where we've had to actually remove elementals and water spirits and things like that. So, yes, it's all here. I mean, we're in the mecca of paranormal paradise, is the way I like to put it. So,
Here too.
Now, are most of your Fae encounters closer to the cave systems, or no?
Well, you know, rock over in that area.
Yeah,
they're finding out that the Mammoth Cave and what was the Horse Cave it's like the largest cave system in the world. God knows how far it stretches because they're actually connected.
Yeah, and they've never even, the cave, when you talk about Mammoth Cave, it goes for 300 to 500 miles, and that's what they're saying. And you have to remember that only maybe 30% of it has been ever hidden. And all this area, I mean, here I am in Franklin and Simpson County. There are caves all over the place. There have been Native American writings on the walls. There's been digs here. There's been all kinds of different things. Smithsonian's been down here. Different colleges have done several things. And, yeah, we are just, as I said, I'm very fortunate to be here. I was raised in West Virginia, moved to Ohio, went all over the country, all over the United States. I've been blessed to do that. I've been in other areas down in South America and also doing things, and in the islands. And it's just a blessing. And being here for the last 20 years and being a paranormal investigator in Kentucky has really opened my eyes to some awesome things, and it is a place that it can be extremely dangerous. That's all I'll tell you.
Well, there's a lot of graveyards, family graveyards in Land Between the Lakes.
Oh yeah,
and they flooded that. They apparently left the bodies and moved the monuments.
Right, exactly, and that's a common thing in some places, and other places, they were just on people's farms and they grew up, and you can get out in the woods and find 3 or 4 or 5 graves just sitting there, and some with stones and some without, would have just used flagstones as markers. But you can always tell when you walk up on one because there's 3 or 4 of them all together, and those flagstones are laying right in a straight line.
Yeah, that was when I lived outside of Springfield, Tennessee. The property I rented, there was a family cemetery. The freshest grave was 1958, but it went. You could go all the way back into history, all the way to where they were just like cobbles set up. So that thing went back about 200 years, and just that place is littered with old abandoned family graveyards.
Oh yeah, and we have a few of them that I've been into. We've found 4 people, find them, and the next thing you know, I might know the family member or whatever, and then they go and they'll clean it up. We've also helped clean some up. I was at a place in Logan County outside of Auburn, a house that was goes back into the 1830s that was built, and we got walking around the area, and there was a rumor that there was an old graveyard back there, and there was over 40 graves there. And through the thickets and through everything else, and it was just amazing. And unfortunately, some other people have found it because I believe there was a rumor that one of the ladies was buried with a real nice jewel necklace, and of course there was grave damage done. And I don't condone that by any means, but as you know, down here and what some of these things are worth, and same thing with the Native Americans, they try to keep these caves closed off. There are some that are gated off just so we don't have people getting in and doing it, and it is very illegal to be able to do that around here.
Well, they've got the Floyd Collins site totally blocked off. You can go to the site, but it's iron bars across the rescue tunnel and the main shaft that Floyd got trapped in.
Right, exactly.
You got the Russians hitting the Titanic.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the strange things about it is, and we'll talk about the Smithsonian and Carnegie and all the other stuff, but coming out of Mammoth Cave, when they're digging these small red-headed beings out, and also finding large full-grown giants with red hair. Very strange, but you know what? Once they dig them up and find it, try to go find one.
Yeah, that disappears.
Yeah, they just disappear.
The Smithsonian is very, of course, they're in the government's pocket, so suppression is part of their mission, but one time they actually did a scientific Yeti expedition in Nepal, and they took a picture in a monastery of what was supposed to have been the body of a Yeti. If you look, they published it. I used to have a hard copy of the magazine itself. You cannot find any online presence of that article at all. It's like they thought better of it after they published it.
There's quite a few things that you can't find anywhere except the original hard copy of the Smithsonian related.
Oh, and Joe says his coffin will have a claymore attached to it.
Yeah.
Joe. No,
Mine's going to have a hand crank.
and a pointy stick.
I can see the claymore. I can see the whole thing embedded with pointy sticks.
Mm-hmm. Mine's going to have a hand crank, and it's going to play Pop Goes the Weasel. Forever, though.
Hey, mine's going to have a little bell on it, so that if I wake up, I can somebody can dig me up.
So we have about.
You know what? That doesn't work.
Oh, the bell?
Not anymore. Humanity has changed. Before, they'd dig you up, and bring you back out. Now they'll take an excavator and just slam it down until you're actually dead. Right?
So we have about 20 minutes left. So, I'm intrigued by what we were talking about before the show. That Russia is actually going to go back
into Dialog
Pass.
So, okay. So they did go back in 2018, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And the official statement afterwards was, yes, it was natural causes caused by an avalanche.
No.
Totally an avalanche.
Yeah. So not everyone on that team agreed with that statement.
Oh, no, because I'm sorry, but an avalanche doesn't do precision
I would assume
cutting,
that was a statement
removing
by one
eyeballs
person on
and
that
tongues. And
so again, they are actually going back in to continue the investigation, this time with more advanced equipment.
One of the things you find, though, with corpses like that is, if there's any kind of scavenger, the soft tissues like eyes, lips, get scavenged off for the tongues.
And I get that, but these were removed. The way they described them being removed reminds me of the animal mutilation cases that Linda Moulton Howe used to investigate. They were taken out. They were taken out with a laser.
Well, so the first pathologist who was part of when the Dilatov Pass incident happened, and the original pathologist who went over the bodies had a completely different opinion about what happened, and was told, no, you will say this, and he excused himself from the case. But there was supposedly wounds consistent with being hit in the face with the buttstock of an AK-47. These people witnessed something that they weren't supposed, like a weapons test or some kind of. They witnessed something that they weren't supposed to witness, and the KGB swept in and took care of the witnesses. Is one of the theories.
Well, one of the theories is military, and they were doing an exercise out there, and they came upon them, and they did do that.
There has been so many theories thrown out about this. There was even it was a horrible B movie.
Yes.
It was about
Devil's Pass.
Devil's Pass, and it was weird time travel-y crap.
Well, they have some Laplanders. They're not Laplanders, but they're that kind of culture, like reindeer herders, that told this expedition, these people, you don't want to go there. That they had a tradition that it was truly the Devil's Pass. You don't want to go in that area.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So Joe's saying, how did the KGB crush the sternum and rib cages? And that is, so playing devil's advocate real quick, that could be consistent with an avalanche, but
or a concussion bomb of some kind.
Or a concussion bomb. I think what intrigues me the most too is the two photos that were taken from the film of the camera from. Because were there 10 total, or was it 9? Because one survived.
I think it said 9.
It was 9, but the one that survived left before they went on there.
Right.
Yeah, one of them got sick and turned back before they actually got there.
I bet he was super happy.
I would have said I was sick too.
Well, they did find that camera, and you see this object looking like it's leaning out.
Yeah, like a Bigfoot creature.
But it could also, it kind of looked, to me, it reminded me of somebody in a mop suit.
Okay, I can see that.
And whatever it was that scared them enough
They
rip open their tent.
They cut their tents and ran
from the inside
naked
and ran completely naked into the wilderness when it was snowing and everything else in the middle of Russia.
So
I mean, something scared the crap out of these people.
Yes, and they were experienced campers. It wasn't like a bunch of green.
Oh hell no!
They were highly experienced skiers and mountaineers.
So I think we're going to pursue this for a September show. Diet Love Pass. Give them a couple months to release their findings.
They ain't gonna release their findings in a couple of months. It'll be
like Joe says he's seen videos of the air and there's
what
no
they
mountain
release
above
will be
it to avalanche them.
Yeah.
But I think it's time. It's time to do a Diet Love Pass show.
The year 2030, they'll come out with something that says, "Yep, it was an avalanche."
Well, Joe says he's seen videos of the area and there's no mountain above it to avalanche them. Joe, just so you know, it's one of those Russian avalanches. It goes just across the smooth ground.
Yeah, it's a flat avalanche. There we go.
Well, it is a mystery. Just the fact that these people. They ran out of their tent.
They were terrified of...
They were terrified of something. They were in fear for their lives. They cut their tent from the inside and booked out into like negative 40-degree weather in their underwear.
So this is the thing that bothers me about that. Okay, if you hear noises on the outside of your tent, okay, you aren't going to cut the tent and run out to where it can... potentially get you. I mean, obviously a tent isn't going to save you, but you're not going to do that. Not if it's on the outside of your tent. So what would be able to fit into a two-man tent that would scare you enough to rip it out from the inside?
Yeah, because they did show that it was cut from the inside.
This is a tiny little two-man tent. And I mean, this is back then two-man tent. It's not...
canvas like a Boy Scout Voyager tent.
Exactly. So what is coming in there that's going to scare you enough to bolt out of there?
And to cut your way out.
Was, right.
If I drank a glass of milk in the tent, you'd do that.
Well, yeah.
I wasn't too sure about the cutting the tent because of the fact that, as far as I know, I hadn't heard that they had actually proved that it was from the inside or the outside. Now, if something came and cut the tent, I would be running out of my tent any way that I could. Right. In any condition that I would, because that would be enough scary for me. If I was totally butt-ass naked, I'd be taken out of my tent if somebody took a knife to the outside of it. And so that's one of the questions that I have. I've always had. But now you say that you have heard or seen that there was a report that it was definitely cut from the inside?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That was on the one of the. My memory's not what it was either, but that was one of the strange things that they added up is that the tents were cut. There was evidence that the cuts were administered from the inside. The people cutting a slide, they weren't going out the flaps. They were actually in a panic enough that they were cutting their way out of their tents and running.
Okay, I am gonna, at the same time, play again, devil's advocate here. If, for some reason, you were to have ran out of necessary supplies, okay, you could get to the point where you were a little delusional, and you could be seeing things that weren't there, especially in the environment that you're in.
Oh, that could tie... We need to do a Franklin expedition show as well. Mm-hmm. That was one where they used lead-lined cans for their food, and they think lead poisoning affected their judgment because they abandoned their ship and were like making sleds and carrying stuff that wasn't provisions. They had like a chest of drawers, all kind of weird.
Right.
Stuff. Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
That would be a good show. The Franklin expedition is.
Now, Joe brings up the good point, too. Cutting from the inside has been confirmed.
Okay.
If you're going to cut your way out of a tent, that means something was standing in front of the tent.
Like in the zipper area, so you couldn't have gone out the regular.
True,
yeah,
true.
Those were old unless they tried to escape and the knots, those were the kind of, you tied your tent flaps. They weren't zippered like modern tents with a zipper. They were, you tie the flap, that kind of weather, the knot is But then again, if you're going to cut, I guess you could just cut the knot and go out. Something must be. Yeah, that's a good point. Something was blocking their egress, and they had to make.
They had to get out.
They had to get out somehow for some reason. But that still could be the KGB, or the Army.
Absolutely.
Somebody was in the campground threatening their lives. I mean, there's.
Okay, so again, I'm going to go from a more realistic perspective. If we're going for, let's say that there was no paranormal anything, there was no KGB, anything like that. It was just a case of these people going kind of nuts and cutting themselves out of a tent and stuff. If you are foraging and you grab the wrong thing, it can cause hallucinations, it can cause all kinds of stuff. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, let's say they grabbed the wrong kind of mushroom and sat there and were eating it.
Well, there wouldn't have been any mushroom.
No, not at that time.
Right, because
but you know what I'm saying.
There wouldn't have been berries either.
Well, also their own supplies. Maybe they got.
Maybe they got something that was tainted.
There might have been tainted. Something like ergot, which is a fungus that grows on wheat.
Right.
And it can cause hallucinations and food poisoning.
But cameras, again, don't hallucinate.
Right, they did.
Exactly.
Such a great you see that black object in that.
Oh, absolutely, and the orb.
Looking at them, orbs and cameras. Now, my problem with that is you can get an orb on a camera,
especially in the 50s and the type of camera that they were using. Okay,
right.
I mean, it flashes wrong. You're all around snow.
Yeah,
it's gonna give you a little flash blob in the side of the camera.
Joe's asking if there was a written note found in one of the journals that said the Iceman is real.
I don't. Yeah,
that I don't remember. That.
It said something about that, and I believe it was one of the. Not National Geographic, but one of the History Channel. Documentaries.
Okay.
I haven't heard about the note.
I haven't actually gone into it enough to know if there was actually a note or not.
I don't remember hearing that, but then again, I'm not, that's one of those passing interest things I got into for a while and then moved on. Because no matter how much research you do on it, all you get is more questions.
Okay,
exactly. The deeper you dig, the more questions you get, the deeper the rabbit hole goes. You know?
Absolutely.
And when you get to the bottom of the rabbit hole, it's still the same thing: good versus evil, some way or the other. And so.
So if there were a whole bunch of half of the party was found naked and dead after they ran out of their tent, the other half was found in a stream, face down with eyes and tongue gone and different things like that. Okay?
Right.
So I'm gonna take a little clip from the Donner Party here. So if you were snowed in, what would be the first thing that you would eat on a dead person?
The soft tissues.
Soft tissues.
Look at what the Donner Party.
What happens when you're stuck out in the woods and you've just eaten your friends? You go nuts.
And that actually ties in quite
but then who
well
needs
with
the eyes and a tongue.
They're easy to get to.
They're easy to get to.
Yeah, they're soft tissues. They're easy to get to.
But wouldn't you take the eyes and tongue from the same guy?
Right, exactly.
I don't know. That's
that's. But at the same time, I mean, if you're eating your buddy, you're probably only going to be able to take one bite of something.
Yeah.
Before you kind of go, oh my god, I just ate my buddy.
Then both eyes shouldn't have been gone.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. That's.
I'm just saying, that is a little far fetched for me, just because.
Yeah, I'm
of the
just
way
trying
the
to look at
situation
different.
Well, it also ties in.
Know.
Isn't that close enough to that area? The Arctic, isn't that close enough to maybe have some Wendigo activity?
Wendigo
if we want to go really far-fetched?
Right, that's what I'm saying. You could go on...
Yeah.
Okay, so the place is actually called the Mountain of Death, and has been since before
before it was even done.
Yeah, I forgot what that tribe is. It's a tribal culture. I think they're reindeer herders like the Laplanders. They might even be Laplanders that are in that territory.
A better translation of it is Dead Mountain. It means lack of game.
So you get out there and there's no... If you run out of
If you run out of
food,
anything, you run out of everything.
Yeah.
The area does actually have like a lot of grassy areas.
Where
Stuff
you would
like that
forage.
in the bottom of the pass. There shouldn't not be animals there. That's another thing you gotta look at. What is causing no game to be there?
The time of year, maybe everything was in high because there was snow. It was in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just that time of year though. It's never had animals.
All the time.
It's never. You're saying that there's though there should
that area
be,
does not have animals in it.
So there's something that keeps
the animals out of there.
Yeah,
out of there.
Well, the tribal members of that, they said don't go there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a matter of fact, the Russian government tried to say that these people killed them, and then later they had to recant that these people tried desperately to tell those campers don't go to that area.
Don't go there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, said, "Oh, silly natives! We're going we're big city slickers. We know better."
Right.
Well, they paid for it.
Here's the thing.
What I would like to see is I'd like to know more about what the native Laplanders or whatever they are up there, what made them do that. There has to be lore that makes them to say, don't go there.
Baba Yaga.
That would be interesting to find out what they've been talking about.
The lore in that area would be Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and her,
Baba Yaga.
Chicken feet.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the Russian witch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, that's the thing. It's like...
she was actually a Christmas witch, wasn't she?
Baba Yaga, no, that's a different story.
Yeah, she's a Russian folk villain.
Yeah,
I was hoping it was a scientific reason that the game has gone something like it's too high up, but it's not even. It can't even be that because it's only 3,000.
Yeah, it's
feet.
not outside.
Right.
Yeah, that's its elevation. No. When K2 is 28,000 feet.
Right.
That one doesn't even work. There really is no reason unless there's something to do. Because isn't there a base in their side there somewhere?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, supposedly, yes.
So, if there actually is, what if they did something in there that caused...
nuclear testing?
No, something way before that.
Well, they list
I'm talking
avalanche, catabolic winds, infrasound.
See, that's what I mean. Those weird
the infrasound. We're starting to learn more about infrasound and that it is, it affects the human nervous system and causes sheer panic. So,
right, infrasound
is being tested or some kind of tectonic event.
Well, wouldn't the winds themselves cause?
I don't think you'd run from the wind if you're in the tent, though. I mean,
no.
No, not at all.
You're not going to leave. I wouldn't think you're going to leave shelter.
Well, see, the only thing that I would say about the wind is when the wind blows through certain areas, it makes a horrible noise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we are down to 2 minutes left of the show, and yes, Joe, Baba Yaga is what they call John Wick. Absolutely, he killed people with a pencil.
Which is nothing but a small pointy stick.
It is. Absolutely.
The boogeyman.
I wish I could find that.
Great show tonight, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening. Next week we will have Roundtable. You want your S4 gear, make sure you go to our website where our chat room is, where all of our archives are, other than the YouTube channel. www.s-4radio.com to get your t-shirts and hats and mugs and
yep. Check the Facebook page next week for pictures of us trying to play with Bigfoot.
Yep.
Oh honey, no, you ain't
yeah.
Bigfoot.
Man, come on.
Enjoy yourself.
An apron. Cole made this an S4 apron. Perfect for your barbecue.
Absolutely.
Okay, so me and Izzy make a whole store worth of merchandise, but you got to push the one thing that Cole made.
Damn right.
All right. So y'all have a great night, a safe week. Again, kudos to our local sheriff and SAR. Hope you find Sage, the missing little boy that we've all been working on the last almost week. Not quite, but yeah. Anyway. Y'all have a great night, safe week. See you next week. And remember, keep your eyes to the skies.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on S4, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. You can contact S4 through our website at www.s-4radio.com or on Facebook. Make sure you give us a like on our page and join the Forest Moon Paranormal group. If you are interested in advertising, take a look at our packages and contact Cole or Eric at 1-360-999-2830. Again, thank you. And remember, keep your eyes to the sky.